Oh! What are you guys doing here?
I don't leave the couch.
Tim!
I don't know how I got here either.
You phased into existence on my
I
couch.
just kind of wandered in here.
Wait a minute.
We did a blue teleport from the sky. Bam!
Something seems different.
Yeah, we don't have someone here dragging us down is what we don't have.
It's less lame in here. Where's Paul?
We kicked him.
It's alright, we replaced Paul with someone a little more swarthy, in my opinion.
Someone who knows how to talk about stuff.
Ain't that
That Paul has no idea. Because Paul doesn't know anything.
Paul doesn't know anything, does he?
Oh,
Tim, talk trash about Paul now.
I don't know if I could do that off the cuff. I think he might have certain specialties, certain fields of expertise.
There are no qualities. If you watch Power Trip, Tim, there's no qualities he brings to the table.
anger.
That's true.
Well, maybe he's the Jekyll to your Hyde.
He is the reason controllers get broken around here.
Yeah, he cost me money. That fuck. Oh well. That'll be it.
That's a good way to punctuate it.
That's pretty much what he is. That belch in your lower diaphragm. Upper diaphragm?
I don't know.
Where
Doesn't
does-
happen
Yeah.
doesn't happen in your diaphragm at all.
I don't know. I don't know people, things,
Anatomy.
anatomy.
Burps usually happen in your stomach.
As my brother, anatomy. Whatever. Let's get off the rails, baby!
Oh, I'm not,
All right.
I'm not awake enough for that crap.
No,
yet.
nobody is. Welcome back to the Power Trip Gaming Powercast! Ooh, yeah! Because
God, already into Macho Man.
Paul's not here to yell at me for it.
No, I am!
You're the worst. Yes!
No Macho Man, no Sean Connery.
Damn it. You leave me with nothing. Yes, it's another Power Trip Gaming Powercast. Paul's not here. We don't know where he is. But who gives a shit? The results are in from the polls. What are those called? Not field studies. What's that called?
Survey?
The test markets. Whatever they go. What do they call them?
Nielsen studies?
No.
I guess if you're talking about for TV ratings, or if you're talking about, like,
I don't know what he's talking about.
are you talking about
No, like
political polling?
test audiences. Is that what it is? That you like show a product to a group of people and they they give you feedback. What is that called?
Well, you can call it a lot of things. Surveys, test audiences, like...
Either way, they don't like Paul. That's what I was getting at. They hate Paul.
I mean, the survey was only just us, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the survey was just 3 of us.
It's not a very concrete sample size.
No. The 3 of us speak volumes for everybody. It's an all-is statement.
I view myself like the Chinese government. I have the vote of billions, even though they don't agree with me.
But yes, so Paul's not here. But we're gonna do one anyway. So I felt not obligated, but I felt this is the perfect time to talk about the Mega Man series. Obviously, because Tim's here.
Hello.
Tim is here. Hi, Tim. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I don't miss Paul at all. I'm not crying. You're crying.
I mean, maybe on a subconscious level. I think you keep bringing it up.
I do. I miss him.
It's okay.
There's no boxes of tissues in here for you either, so
That's okay.
suck it up, Buttercup.
He'll be back. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That's what they say, anyway. What about you, Kevin? How you holding up?
I barely woke up this morning on time.
Anything new with you guys? What are you guys playing?
Go ahead, Tim.
Well, lately I've been playing Dragon Quest XI-S on the Switch.
I just got that myself.
So I played it through on the PS4 last year, and I also have the 3DS version. But I didn't complete that one. But I've been making my way through pretty slowly on the new definitive edition. Haven't had a whole lot of time just because of work and everything else, but it's been great. I love the Dragon Quest series, so that's what I go through. And I have made occasional detours just to revisit Mega Man games because
Of course.
that's what I do.
You are like a baby for crack. Crack babies.
I
That
Sure.
didn't make sense. I was trying to divert my attention, and it didn't work. You know that thing where, like, they say if you walk while you're like doing work, it's supposed to help jog your brain because your body's thinking about walking or whatever. Yeah, I tried that. It didn't work. My brain just literally shut off.
You can barely walk and chew bubblegum at the same time without, killing yourself. So.
Yeah, right.
Well, what about you guys? What are you playing now?
Well, Borderlands 3 came out, what was that, about a month ago, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
I still haven't finished it, obviously. I get sidetracked very easily. But I've actually gone back to Tales of Xillia for the PS3. Because I love the Tales series. And it's one that I kept starting it like 3 or 4 different times. Where it's like, I'd play it for a half hour to an hour. I'd stop playing, and I just never came back to it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a fair shot this time. And I've given it about 4 or 5 hours, maybe. I like it so far.
Was it something you had trouble getting into at first, or was it because of other circumstances?
I think I just had trouble because before I played Xillia, I'd been playing like Berseria and Zestiria for the PS4.
Okay.
And it's weird. It's hard going from a system that has no magic points to a system that does.
Oh.
If that makes sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I can see that.
Actually, I think Tales of Grace's F was the same way. They had no magic
Yeah, the
points.
TPs, no, the AP system or whatever it's called.
So it's like you worry about running out of magic points and shit like that, and which actually I've found so far in Xillia that's not really so much of an issue. I've kind of never really lost MP considerably, so it's been alright. I like the story so far. The whole link system is a really interesting idea where you can link between different characters and they do things, different abilities and whatnot. I figured I'd give it a shot. What about you, Kevin? What have you been playing?
Borderlands 3. I have 2 characters maxed out with the story beat.
There's a shock.
Well, yeah, I beat that one real quick. And I'm waiting for like the Halloween event that happens next week, this week, something like that.
Really?
And then I jump back to... After I finish those, I jump back to Ultimate Alliance 3 on my Switch.
Didn't they just release new characters for that?
They released
Moon Knight.
not long ago. They did Cyclops and Colossus, but then they just did the first DLC, which included Punisher, Morbius,
Moon Knight,
and
Blade. I thought.
yeah, Blade.
Oh wow!
So they did this whole like Marvel Knights line.
Yep.
So
Is it? I assume that it's not free.
it was part of like they have
Season
like
pass.
they have a season pass type thing.
Oh okay. Yeah. Well, that's cool.
So that's what and then kind of Diablo 3 here and there when I just don't know what else to play.
Honestly, Diablo 3 is like your default game.
Well, Diablo 2 was for I don't know 15 years.
Yeah.
So
I've been on an irresponsible kick of buying a lot of games lately. Granted, this past time I picked up Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest. What is that? 11. Yes, that one. And Alliance Alive HD for the Switch not long ago.
Okay.
And I picked up Link's Awakening, obviously, because I loved that game.
It's
And
really adorable.
It's so good.
Yeah. I love the way it looks. I think it's I don't know. That's just one where I was really sold on its visuals. I thought it was really charming.
Yeah. And of course, Paul always gives me shit about it because I hate Link to the Past.
Oh.
Because I say it looks too...
he looks like a hobbit.
He looks like a hobbit, it's too cheerful and all that stuff. And then I love Wind Waker, and I love Link's Awakening's aesthetic.
Well, I know it's funny because you like Link Between Worlds as well.
I love Link Between Worlds.
I do have to say that I don't find your reasoning consistent for those games, but you are free to have those opinions. But I
to be honest, I think it's just because he was a Sega kid.
No.
That was his big thing.
I absolutely love Link to the Past. That is actually personally that and A Link Between Worlds are tied for my favorite Zelda game. Those are the ones I can go back to at any given time. I think I've beaten A Link Between Worlds 6 or 7 times now, and then A Link to the Past is one I usually revisit once a year. So I'll just go back and play it. So I played it through this year again. I played it this time on my SNES Classic, and it's something that it's relaxing and nostalgic, but it's just fun and adventurous every single time. Like I love that game.
Yeah. Well, I think for me personally, it's just because, and I think I've mentioned this before, it comes down to just like, I feel like they tried to make a darker Zelda, and the aesthetic completely just did not translate for me.
See, like,
So it didn't quite, like the ambiance didn't make sense to me.
See, I like that when like the world is colorful, but like the story and stuff can be darker
Yeah.
and.
I mean, I don't see it as really incongruent. I guess the only criticism I really had was I think it had a kind of a poor translation from art to pixel in that. I felt like if you look at a lot of the promotional artwork and a lot of like the posters, like it's really gorgeous.
Yeah.
And when you look at how the characters, like they didn't really translate too well. Like Aghanim doesn't really look like how he looks in a lot of the art. And I know some fans have done projects to actually redo a lot of the sprites for that to make them look closer to how they should to their original designs. And that is, that's been really cool to look at. So I think that had they, had another stab at it, it could have been a lot closer. But even still, I thought that, I hate using the word aesthetic a lot, but I feel like that's kind of something I would have to use. But I feel like that works really well with that, where it's, when the light world is really vibrant and colorful, and it's a nice contrast with everything really muted in the dark world. And I remember actually Link to the Past being one of the first games to really give me goosebumps when you start the game and it has it's the rain pouring down. Like that to me established mood really well that many games at the time didn't. And that was something where I was really little and I first played that. I was first like, wow, like this can really set a mood for a game. Like you get started and it's sort of ominous and like that like there's a looming threat ahead but you're not sure what to do and you feel underprepared. And to me, like, that just set the tone of the adventure really well compared to the first Zelda.
Yeah. Well, that was one thing I noticed the SNES did very well anyway. Like, because my two of us, obviously, like you said, I didn't grow up with a SNES. I had a Genesis. But the two games I remember most specifically, or most vividly, I get... Jesus Christ. Most vividly would be, like you said, the rain from the opening scene, and I remember that very vividly, and I remember it was cool. And
the brooding music at the very beginning is pretty...
Yeah.
It's a very good...
Yeah, I do
It's a very somber, like, okay, we're slowly going into this before... Like, the first Zelda is just, you start and all of a sudden it's... And you're like, okay, we're hopeful, we're cheerful, we're right in the middle of going stuff. But, like, Link to the Past, they're sort of just like... Guess what? Your world's about to suck.
Which is funny because the original Zelda is like one of the darkest stories in the fucking franchise.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say necessarily it's dark, but it's kind of like lonely.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah.
I guess as an unpopular opinion, I actually don't really care for the first Zelda much at all. At the time, I really favored Crystallis by SNK. Like I adored that game, and so the first Zelda, like I just remember feeling like. I thought it was almost too obtuse. It's like, hey, like, if you don't have Nintendo Power, you're not going to figure this out. And I feel like there's a line you can cross of like giving you freedom to explore things and just being overly cryptic to the point of just being frustrating. And I felt like it definitely crossed way into that line hard.
It was completely directionless.
I feel like there's sort of like a revisionist. Like a revisionist history going on. People are like, oh yeah, it's fully. You can go anywhere you want at any time. Like, but you can't. Like, you need. There's a certain order to the dungeons that you need certain items to do.
Right.
So like there is an order you have to do it. So you can't. It's not just like A Link Between Worlds where you can go to the dungeons you want to, or Breath of the Wild where you can go anywhere you want to.
Yeah.
And that I feel it's odd when people keep saying, oh yeah, the first Zelda you can go anywhere.
Well, I say you can only do like the first 4 dungeons or something like that in any order, and then beyond that you need certain.
I think it's even like the first 2. I think it's.
Is it?
Yeah. I think it's like you need the items from that to get to 3.
Because I know Paul does it in a very weird order.
Yeah, he does.
There are some you can skip around, but you need there's certain items to get to each one.
Yeah.
Right. I know you need the raft at one point, the step ladder, and all that kind of crap to get to other key areas. But I think you can do the first 3 in any order. Because then I think 4 you need the raft to get across. Yeah. Which I've done. I always just go in order anyway. I don't give a shit.
But you were also a kid who bought the red potion. So.
You know what? let's not start with that right now.
I actually have a Link Between Worlds solution to that problem. I know people have been wondering like, linear or not linear. That's not really a discussion I'm really interested in having because I feel like both can be good. I feel like that doesn't matter as much. But A Link Between Worlds, I liked the solution they did there, where it's you can choose any dungeon you want to go to, and all of the items are available to you. You just prioritize which one you want to get. So it has like a rental system where if you're a really good player and you don't die, like you can rent it for a low cost and not worry. But if you are worried, like you can just buy the item outright. and then later you can upgrade it by finding things around. So it's still that element of discovery for finding things for the upgrade part, but it was a nice solution, I thought.
I need to go back to Link Between Worlds and actually beat that.
Oh, you haven't beaten that game?
My game, at one point, do you remember the dungeon where you had to break the ceiling to get the light to shine through?
Yeah.
My game glitched out to where I broke the ceiling or whatever. I broke the panel, but the light wouldn't come through. I literally couldn't advance. And I was stuck in that dungeon. I had to restart my entire game. It was really...
Was that the Thief's Hideout?
Maybe? I don't really remember.
I remember
it was quite a while.
I remember
ago.
a Link to the Past, you do that with the Thief's Hideout. You fight Bright, and it's the one where you shine the light down in there, and she's exposed to it. And you think it's the maiden, but it's not.
Yeah,
and A Link Between Worlds, I remember they sort of like an inverse of that one, where it's like you rescue a thief girl and bring her out, and then you fight a monster in that one.
I remember there was a part you had to break certain things to get light in, and that was it might have been the Thief's Hideout or whatever, but it wouldn't let me progress. And I ended up just kind of giving up because I didn't want to restart. But I do love that game quite a bit. But yeah, anyway. I agree. I think the first one, it's good, but I was always more of a Link, Adventures of Link guy.
That was a good one. I feel like that one just doesn't get as much love. But.
No, well, it does now, but definitely back in the day it didn't. Because it was different, you know. They were experimental back in the day. They don't experiment too much anymore.
I think now, after seeing other games like Monster Boy and Agalos, I think is one that came out recently. Like, I wonder if there's a newfound appreciation for those kind of 2D side-scroller RPGs.
Absolutely. Because even Battle of Olympus back on the NES was like Adventure of Link.
Oh yeah.
But you never hear anything about Battle of Olympus.
No.
Yeah, I don't even know that one.
Yeah. But anyway. We're way off topic. We're talking about the Mega Mans.
Well, it also is appropriate because it's October, so it's the 1 year anniversary of Mega Man 11.
Boom! 1 year anniversary of Mega Man 11. See, I planned this out perfect.
No, you didn't.
I wanted to do this podcast episode, Powercast episode, for 2 reasons. 1 year anniversary of Mega Man 11.
You didn't know.
You don't know that. You don't know it. Get out of my brain! And the second one was because on the horizon we have the Mega Man Zero collection coming out for the Switch in January.
Yep.
Which I love.
Yep.
I love that series.
Yeah, those are great.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore the Zero series. I like because in my mind it's really the only complete Mega Man series they've done. A lot of them I've sort of left dangling. But Zero is it's one complete story, and it's really well done, and everything is just really fine-tuned, and it's wonderful. It's a really great series. Zero 3 is still one of my favorite games overall in the entire franchise, just because it's a really incredible story, and it's just great to there. But it's fantastic.
It is, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that series. For now, we'll start with obviously where it all started. The original series on the NES, the original 8.
Yep.
Excuse me, 6.
Yep.
Well, technically 8, I guess.
Well, there's the 6 for NES, then 7 was Super Nintendo, then 8 PlayStation Saturn, then had 9 and 10, now 11.
Yeah, so let's start with those, man. Obviously, I'm pretty sure Mega Man's such a funny franchise because if you really think about it, it's very widespread. It is a very large IP. Comparatively speaking to a lot of the other Nintendo IPs.
Oh yeah.
So it always baffles me that they kind of have shelved him for so long and how little recognition he gets for being such a powerhouse. I mean, you have the original series, you have the X series, you have that
Battle
huge
Network.
Battle Network
Well,
series.
Network Transmission, then Star Force.
Yep.
I mean,
Zero and ZX.
There we go.
You have the RPG. You have
I forgot about
He's covered a lot of different genres throughout there. Like you've had a Mega Man racing game,
Soccer.
you had a Mega Man sports game.
He's essentially like a poor man's Mario.
Nah, he's better than Mario.
I agree. I personally think he's better than Mario, but
I mean, I never really saw them in the same category. Even though they're platformer games, they have a very different focus.
Yeah.
So I could always see them as going on as. At playgrounds growing up, it usually was there was the Mario and Sonic debate going on, which I wasn't related to. I'm like, well, I like both those things, but for me, I was always a Mega Man kid. Like that's what I always loved, and so to me, Mega Man was like this perfect like Saturday morning cartoon in sort of in game form where it was
until they turned him into a cartoon and ruined it.
Mega High.
Yeah,
poor Captain N.
Yeah, the Captain N Mega Man was something else.
Well, I was like, his own series wasn't too bad, but
It's
interesting.
It's extremely it's very 90s.
Whoa!
So they had the Ruby Spears produced cartoon in the 90s, which is actually kind of funny. Quick side note, you can actually see what the original pilot was like for that, and the original design for it was closer to the games and the original artwork where he was a kid, and it looks great. Like I would have loved that, but I'm not sure exactly how this happened, but I guess maybe the producers right at the time thought that a more adult-looking Mega Man would resonate better with American audiences, so they sort of aged him up and gave him really defined muscles and made him look more mature. I'm not sure why.
Just He-Man with a blue tank top on.
But yeah, it's. I also think a lot of the voices in the Mega Man cartoon actually were also were the same actors who later did the original Ocean dub for Dragon Ball Z. So you can hear a lot of those like Mega Man hearing.
Well, I would say a lot of early shows like that. There was a very small voice acting community back then. So
and then for the original Mega Man cartoon, like it's. There are some things that it's not aged well. Like the show is a little misogynistic in some areas where it's like, oh, you're a girl, you can't do this.
Get that broom.
So that's a little unfortunate. But some parts are still a little endearing and funny. Like I think one of my favorite moments, which I think I shared with you around 4th of July, is when it's Mega Man and Proto Man facing off at the Lincoln Memorial. It's like, oh no, he's gonna blast President Lincoln. and Proto Man's like, ha, I knew you'd risk yourself to save Mr. Lincoln. And like it's just it's so idiotic that I can't help but laugh, and it's just fun.
It's completely ridiculous.
And I think another of my favorite scenes is when he has a stick where it's like he's like, oh, like now I've got your power for everyone. And he usually grabs, he'll grab them.
That's the one thing I liked about the show is he never actually had to beat anyone to steal their power. He touched them and siphoned their power and got it.
Kind of like Rogue.
Yeah.
And the only time, like most times, the other master's like, oh no, he's got my power. But when Feral Man happens to him, he just decks Mega Man. Right? Like, he doesn't say anything. He's like, oh, bam, and then just smacks him. And if you buy, they reprinted the series, and on the back, it actually screen caps that scene. So it's like, Feral Man's awesome. He doesn't even care. So
that's amazing. I would love to watch those. I'm gonna have to look up some of those old episodes.
And then there is a more recent one, which it's pretty bizarre. It's Mega Man Fully Charged, which is sort of like a reimagining of the show. So they have different character designs and different things there. And it's like it's a decent show. It's definitely aimed at kids now, and like they wanted to try something different for it. So I can appreciate they're trying something new. I feel like I would have liked it better had they kept to the more to the original character designs and everything. Mm-hmm. But it's not aimed at me. It's aimed at kids there, and they want to keep that going, which I can appreciate. Like for me, it's that like if more people can get into the series and more kids can and more adults can, like then that's great. I want more people to celebrate the series.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it'll force Capcom to actually start doing more with it.
Well, I think that they definitely are now. It's gone on a hiatus for a while, and I know Andy, you mentioned like you were kind of wondering like why it's been shelved, and I think that there is a kind of a clear through line of what's happened. Is like when the series got its start, it was pretty explosive, and it started off really strong and kind of carried through into the 90s. And I think once you kind of got into late 90s, early 2000s, you started to see like what that series was doing compared to other franchises. Mm-hmm. And it was definitely diminishing returns at that time. And then into the early 2000s, you started to see like, X series had a pretty shaky jump to 3D with X7. And then even though X8 was great, it didn't pull in enough to really keep things going. Right. And then you had, the Zero series ended and it went to ZX, which didn't really pull in enough. And you had Battle Network, which after that ended, got to Star Force, which didn't really do well enough. So they're like, well, like, we're not really sure what to do with this. It's not making a lot. And even though, I would have loved to have seen more, like they were clearly not doing as well as they had hoped. And even the games that people really, really loved, now like Legends 1 and 2, like those.
Yeah, I was just about to mention the Legends games.
So, those didn't do too well. And so I can understand why a lot of that happened. And then I think they've been clearly testing the market with all the merchandise, because that's been always pretty consistent, and it's been even better. And I feel like that's been pretty instrumental, like seeing if people are interested, what they want, and so I think it's definitely the right time for Mega Man to come
I was gonna say, do you think the failure of Mighty Number 9 helped any?
I think so.
Because like people were like, well, we really want this. Like the fans were like, we want a Mega Man. So what's his name?
Inafune KG.
He went and he made Mighty Number 9, and when the fans were like, well, this doesn't feel like scratch that itch that we had.
Yeah.
Do you think Capcom went, well, now is the time where we can actually capitalize on this and maybe start?
Oh yeah, I definitely do. I think that Mighty Number 9 clearly showed Capcom that people had a love for Mega Man and that they wanted it. Mm-hmm. And there are other games they had there, and I think that, as a quick aside, like I think Mighty Number 9 could have worked. The show with like if you've played Mighty Gunvolt Burst on the Switch, like that's actually a really great game, and it basically is Mighty Number 9. Just they just redid it. Yeah. They rebalanced a lot, so I think it could have worked, but Mighty Number 9 clearly just had failed, and I think that showed them that people really had wanted this, and that had led to what they could do. Plus, at Capcom, like it's. Mega Man was more than just one person. And know that Inafune Keiji he's frequently cited as the father of Mega Man, but it's always been more than him. So you have like Akira Kitamura and other people have worked on the series, and you have a lot of people at Capcom who are really passionate about Mega Man. So I think when you look at Mega Man 11 and how much heart and soul went into that, you can see like everyone else there loves Mega Man and they know it just as well. And
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's definitely in safe hands, and I was extremely happy with that. So I definitely agree with you that it's shown that there is a clear love for Mega Man on both sides of the aisle, with fans and the developers.
Oh yeah, I mean, even I remember when they announced Mega Man 9, when that was coming out for, I think that was like PS3, Xbox 360 days.
Yep.
Like I remember the explosion was huge. People were like, "Oh, it's another numbered Mega Man. This hasn't happened in fucking years."
Yeah.
Well, especially because they went with like the style and stuff. They chose not to like force a different aesthetic into it.
Yep.
Yeah, they went right back to the beautiful little like
Yep. It stayed with the original kind of art like look for Mega Man. I also love that the promo like box art for it in air quotes. Like that they did the intentionally bad box art like for Mega Man 1 and 2. But when you actually play the game, it looks great, and it harkens back to 8-bit. And I do feel like Mega Man 9 is also, even though it's kind of regressive in a sense they did 8-bit, it was kind of progressive in the sense that it kickstarted a lot of these retro revivals that came later. Like it came way before Sonic Mania, was ever a thing, and I think it showed like people do like these, like this classic look, and Mega Man 9 is absolutely incredible.
It's gangbusters. So, I fucking love 9.
I felt like had 9 come out in place of 2, it would be just as revered as 2 is.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, that brings me to a good segue here. What would be your favorite game in the mainline series, the numbered series?
So in the classic series?
1 through 9. 10 now. I'm sorry. All right, and 1 through 11, I guess. Jesus Christ!
I'd say it's right behind you, dude.
Yeah, right?
So it's really tough. I always waffle behind it, because growing up, my favorite was 3, because I love the music in it. I love Sparkman's music and Magnet Man's and Snake Man's and the Wily Castles, and that's one that I always loved growing up. But I've always waffled between Mega Man Powered Up, because that's an incredible remake and handles Mega Man 1 really well, and there's so much content and it's really fun. And then also Mega Man 5 for Game Boy, because that one's really cool, and it has an interesting twist on a lot of the Mega Man mechanics.
Yeah,
that one's really cool. And even later, getting appreciation for things like Mega Man and Bass, which is, I kind of count it as part of the main line of that, but even though it's a spin-off.
Is it really?
Yeah, because it came out after Mega Man 8, and it looks really like that small, but it came out after Super Famicom. It was released after there, but it's still kind of taking place in that.
I was just assumed it was part of the main line, but not part of like the main story.
Yeah.
It was more like a side chapter type thing.
Yeah, but that one's great, and even getting later on appreciation for Mega Man 8, which I feel like when it first came out, some people didn't like it as much because it's really cute. But playing it now, I'm like, wow, like this is probably one of the best aged games in the PS1, if not like one of the best aged games.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Like it plays really well. So it's a really tough call, but I think for me, I'm gonna say 3, just because that's my childhood favorite. But there are so many I could say even in the classic series alone.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if anybody's watched Power Trip, I love 2. I feel like that's where most people lie. It's either 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You never really hear anybody say, "Oh yeah, 4 or 5 or 6 were my favorite." Like that never happens.
Yeah. See, and I think I'm one of the growing up, I played 1 and 2, very little of 3, but then I jumped to I had played X when it came out, but then I jumped to 8.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one I think I played the most of.
I remember we rented 8, and I beat it in a day.
So I think that's, for me, I think 8 would be where because it's the one I spent the most time with.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny, Mega Man, damn it, I lost my thought.
Yeah, I know you did.
Fuck.
I could see it in your face. The wheels were going and then they just halted.
I was gonna liken it to something. I don't remember what it was.
Couldn't have been that important. He'll come back to it. So after the when did the main series? It ended after what? When they jumped to X?
Well, there's
originally it was 1 through.
Well, they had 1 through 6 for
the
NES, and then at the time you can kind of see a split where there's Mega Man 7 on Super NES and Mega Man X series. I remember some fans at the time thought X meant 10. They were like, "Oh man, what happened to these other games?" And it wasn't really apparent. It's no, X is a separate series.
Actually,
he's Mega Man Cross.
Actually, I was gonna bring that up. Okay, so I know that's a common thing in Japanese titles because it's it's like Monster Hunter Cross. It's not Monster Hunter X.
Yeah.
So why is it with Mega Man? It's Mega Man X and not Mega Man Cross.
Well, because he's specifically named X as a character, and that's brought up all the time. And also, X is kind of used as X as in the variable, because the idea is that he has unlimited potential and power.
Oh, okay.
So it's clearly X, and even in other times, I suppose I could say the voice acting says so, but I don't know if I want to use that defense because technically Mega Man 8, remember, mispronounces names. So
what?
But yeah, the X series is definitely it's definitely X. I know there's a whole thing now with PlayStation saying, "Oh, it's the cross button," which. Cool. I'll probably still say X.
Don't say cool, Tim.
We talked
You're
about
just these idiots.
We talked about it before, and because I had kind of brought up the point where various Japanese titles, it's always something cross or or in other cases like Hunter x Hunter, where you don't actually say anything with the X or anything like that. So it was one of those things where I kind of wondered I knew in the games his name is X, but in
oh yeah.
So it was just one of those things where they selectively use cross versus.
Yeah, I almost wonder if cross is a more recent thing too. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of older titles, like the 16-bit generation, where I would have been seeing that, but I not many really come to mind.
No, I honestly think the whole thing was just a ploy.
Well, the button on the controller was just, I think, them being facetious.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was supposed to be tongue in cheek, but
yeah.
Well, I always thought of it as when they originally had it. So the PlayStation it's more like iconography, and you had map and inventory. But I also thought the circle and the X as Maru and Batsu, which is the idea of correct and incorrect. So Maru is the circle, yeah, you got it right, and Batsu is the X is penalty, you got it wrong. So they also took it as confirm and
cancel.
Which is
funny. We switched it.
Yeah.
X was confirmed for us, and circle was
canceled.
Yeah, I'll say a lot of games you went back with the circle, and you advance things with the X or whatever. It's funny.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why they swapped that here. Maybe just because of the button placement. Maybe Americans were used to. That from early generations thought, okay, this placement will work better. I'm not sure, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Which
is actually kind of interesting to think of, is if you think about the way you hold a controller, even in the old NES games, most times you would investigate or whatever, you would press the A button. It was you press the right button to investigate or whatever, and B would be your back.
Well, B is where I rest my finger.
Well, yeah,
and then I kind of just slide over to A.
It's which then circle and X kind of completely defeats it. And actually, it's funny. Even on the Switch, compared to like the PS4. If you like watch Hulu or
cancel,
yeah, like the buttons are reversed to like go into something or back out of something. So when I swap between my PS4 or my Switch to watch something, it completely throws me off. But yeah, so what were we talking about? Main series. You said 8. You said 3. I said 2. Paul says nothing because he's not here.
I mean, he'd probably
Paul
say
would be
2.
wrong anyways.
Like, I feel like both you and Paul were kind of aligned with that. He hasn't really played that many, has he?
Other than some of the ones we played on the channel, not really.
Yeah. No, I think he only played like the original 4.
Yeah. And I do have to say, I do have to stand 4, 5, and 6 a little bit here. And I think those games have gained more appreciation as time's gone on. So I know when they came out, it was like, oh man, another Mega Man. And people would always complain that they were using the same formula, which I like that they did that.
Me too.
But I think now people are going back and replaying and saying, hey, like these are actually pretty cool. And
they had good level design, stuff like that.
Like 6, when you go back, the levels are really vibrant and creative, and the rush adapter I thought was a pretty great idea.
Oh yeah.
So I thought, when you go into that, it's cool. And Mega Man 5 actually is one of my favorite all-time stages, which is Gravity Man's level.
I love Gravity Man.
It's still really cool. Like I love it. I love the music. I love the boss fight. Like when you go in, like you're on the ceiling, he's on the floor, and he's tossed back and forth.
That's the one I thought it was.
Like, and that's super cool. I love when they do that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I just thought of what I was going to compare him to. So, when we were talking about 2 and 3, and then skipping 4, 5, and 6, it's like people who say, when you think of people who have their favorite Pokemon games, it's always the original ones or like a farther one. Nobody ever says Gold and Silver was their favorite, which is the second.
Well,
I don't think so.
But see, the funny thing is with that, like Gold Silver introduced really some of like the Pokemon I like legendary wise, because the dog trio, I really like their designs.
Yeah.
Overall, the games I don't remember them as well as I remember like Ruby Sapphire.
Right, but I think that's due in part to the graphical jump.
I think that's part of why.
I feel like
that's Gold Silver kind of get overshadowed in that sense.
I guess it's completely anecdotal, but I feel like in my personal experience, I have a lot of friends who have really loved Gold and Silver as one of their favorites and didn't get 3 as much as they couldn't transfer things, and they kind of fell off.
Really?
For Gold and Silver, it introduced a lot of other things like a day and night cycle and different schedules for Pokemon.
The phone. It introduced the phone system,
and there are a lot of just really great Pokemon in that one.
It launched Dark and Steel, even though the types were so rudimentary at first, just because the movesets weren't quite developed enough. It's still, it kicked off the 2 extra types that, Jesus Christ, they hadn't introduced another type until, what was that, X and Y, when they introduced the Fairy type. It had been, several generations before they even put in another one. But, actually, it's funny, we had just had this conversation last night about how Pokemon needs to change their formula, and I was thinking I kind of equate Mega Man, the original 6, to Pokemon. I like the original 6 a lot, actually a lot of the series in general, just by the fact that you can pick up any game in the series and it's familiar. It's the same idea. You fight the Robot Masters, you go kick Wily's ass, you can do the stages in any real order. It's such a... They're different, but still the same. Yeah. And it just, you get such a home feeling. This is familiar, but still relatively different.
I'd say my big difference, the big difference that for me, for Mega Man, the main series can stay the same. Because in Mega Man's case, the side games aren't just some stuff they slap together and we're like, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
They're actually full thought out, fun games. I mean, look at the Battle Network series.
Yeah, they went really far.
They were RPGs with an active combat system.
Yeah.
So they were very different, but they were well thought out. Whereas Pokemon, we got the main series and okay, we can kind of try this and see what happens. And we don't care. It's fine.
Like the Mystery Dungeon games, which are fun to a point, but they're still not. They don't quite live up to what the Rumble games are. Kind of the same thing.
Well, and then then you always I know people kind of like it, but Pokemon Snap and stuff, I thought they were dumb. They're not worth playing.
Snap was interesting.
It's relaxing.
Snap was interesting in the fact that you got to see Pokemon in their in a natural environment and moving. Just that's why Stadium kicked off so well.
Snap just seems like a glorified tech demo to me.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I feel part of it is a lot of people who aren't who don't want a really intensive game experience, it's something that's kind of just like fun and relaxing in short bursts. Yeah. And I'm always up for that. For me, like I always like when they can get a little weird for those. So for the X series, like or for the Mega Man games, I like when they tried other things. Like there's been Legends and there's been X and there's been Battle Network and there's been Star Force. So I like their approach to this. So that they keep a consistent through line for each series. So Mega Man, you kind of know what you're getting into. X, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And then they'll have spin-offs of those to try something unique. And you'll get like a racing game or a soccer game or like an arcade action game or like a turn-based RPG or this. And it's been pretty cool. Like when Network Transmission came out for the GameCube, I really liked that.
I love to see that. That's what I'm looking forward to playing on the channel.
It's a side-scroller RPG, like you mentioned earlier. And I think that one also, when it came out, it was panned pretty hard by a lot of critics. I remember it getting pretty middling reviews, but I think it's gotten a little bit of a cult following later, just because it's unique. It still looks pretty nice. It wasn't really well localized, but I thought it's pretty great. And I didn't know, like, apparently there are more games like that. There was a release on the Wonder Swan that was that similar style. It was Rockman EXE-WS, which I imported that.
I haven't seen that one.
And that's basically the same kind of game, where it's a 2D side scroller set in a Battle Network series, where it has that. So like it's pretty cool.
That's a series I want to get into, is the Battle Network games. I've always heard a lot of really good things about them.
They're some of my favorite Mega Man games.
Yeah, I really need to get into those.
I feel like every Mega Man fan has their favorite. Some downplay others. Like I feel like some of the classic fans don't like Battle Network, and some Battle Network fans don't like the other ones. But in general, like they all really have their passionate followers. And the Battle Network series, I think. It really went with something, and it still stands out. Like I don't know many other games like Battle Network to this day.
Well, and see, that's like the one thing I kind of like that Battle Network does is it kind of incorporates a little bit of that like collecting mentality that like Pokemon has, because you have to get the battle chips that give you the different powers. Because without them, the game gets kind of hard. You can upgrade Mega Man's like base stats like a little bit, like his damage, his shot speed, and stuff like that. But then like the chips give you all the really cool powers. Like you have the gun where it's a bigger gun, it shoots a stronger shot. You have grenades, you have the swords, you have the different elemental abilities. You have the ability to break the floor on the opponent's side so they can't use that square for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
So you can there's actually strategy to it. It reminds me of the grid battle in Enchanted Arms.
Okay.
Where it's nine, it's each side has the 9, and it plays like that, but instead of being turn-based, it's full action. Everyone's moving constantly. You have an ATB gauge that fills up, so that as soon as it fills up, you can swap in more chips and stuff like that. And each chip has a certain number of usages per fight and stuff like that. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
I think I have the first one.
It's gotten more they added in more things as the games went on. They added cross soul and fusion, and you could take different forms. So you could do things you use Guts Soul, so you become you have Guts Man's abilities, and you actually change your look.
Really fun.
And they had the Beast Out stuff, and Battle Network 6 I know is really is especially well liked by fans, and has the Beast Soul abilities. So it's
the
it's
bird
really cool.
or the wolf, I think it was.
Falzer and Gregor.
There we go. Yeah.
Those two there.
Oh wow.
So that is, and that kind of Pokemon thing too is they had multiple versions for Battle Network. So after 1 and 2, well, there also was Battleship Challenge, but there's 3 has white and blue version, 4 is Red Sun, Blue Moon, 5 had Team Proto Man or Team Colonel, or for the DS they did a revised kind of third version. And then 6 has Beast Falzer or Beast Gregor. So they did that, where it's multiple versions. And that continued with Star Force, where they did Pegasus, Leo, and Dragon.
And then Saurian and Ninja or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think it wasn't 3, but then they changed it to 2 for Star Force 2. And it's Zerker X Saurian or Saurian X Ninja.
Yeah.
And then...
That's funny. It almost... A lot of games kind of copy that weird Pokemon formula where they release multiple games. Demi Kids did it. They had that light and dark. Damn it! I had another one just on the top of my head like that.
The little difference is in the Mega Man series, it actually slightly alters the story a little bit.
That's cool.
See, Pokemon, it's okay. We're the same story. We're just going to encounter different things.
We're going to fight a different group.
The Mega Man games, they actually have slightly different stories based on what you're going against.
That's cool, though. I like that idea.
Yeah, especially in the later ones, because in 5 and 6, you know, with Team Proto Man or Team Colonel, and 6 with different beasts. So like, it does change it up. I'm definitely expecting we're going to see a collection of those.
I see. As soon as the collection if it comes out for Switch, I'm done. I'm buying that immediately.
I'm about to say as soon as because I'm pretty sure you can. I'm gonna pre-order that the X collection or the Zero collection.
Yep, Zero's
for the Switch. Yeah, I really want that.
Yeah.
But so we'll move on from the classic series because we're kind of already done it.
Like I said, we go on tangents. So.
If you had to map out the timeline of our Powercast, it's like, yeah, it looks more like a. I can't describe it.
It looks like a toddler with a marker just going in circles.
Really? And then just one straight line through it for some reason. We'll move on to the X series, which I'm pretty sure is higher acclaimed than the original series, I think, to most people. So, obviously, I did not have a Super Nintendo, so I don't have quite a penchant for the X series. I do like them quite a bit. I love the idea of them.
I mean, you played X4, though.
I did have X4 for the Saturn, which I love. I love that game.
Yeah.
And I did play X quite a bit when I got older. But like 2, 3, 5, and onwards, like, no idea. Yeah. So when we play X3 later, I'm going to have no clue what's going on, even though I have it. Yeah. Well, I have it digitally, but that's not the point.
I just say, like, yeah, I grew up renting X1 and 2 quite a bit. I think, like, X especially, I played them up until 7, because I didn't quite like the feel of it. I know Tim's always told me I need to go back and replay 7 and 8.
And, I would say play 8. Yeah.
That's funny.
I have many feelings about the subject.
Like, but like the one thing I really liked about the X series is when they started introducing almost the different forms he got, like where you could stand on. There was the ninja one or whatever where you could stand X6. On spikes.
Yep.
There's the one when he doesn't slide on walls anymore; he sticks to them.
Yeah.
So you got these like different forms that give you different abilities. And
the armor sets was always something people loved about the X games. That it made it feel kind of like an RPG in a sense, where you're finding these cool secrets to power up.
Yeah.
And I did love as it went on. They had more. So I would say X1 has the standard armor set, just the one you can find. There's an additional power up, and X2 had an armor set with additional power up. X3 has an armor set with optional like second upgrades you can find. Mm-hmm. Then X4 had an armor set with 2 different busters you could swap between.
That's the plasma buster or the multi-charge one, right?
Yep. And at X5 you start to see multiple armor sets, so you can start the game with X's armor from X4 if you pick him, which is really cool.
That is neat.
Or as you go on, you can also find the Gaia armor, which makes you really heavy. And you don't take damage from spikes, and you can move heavy blocks, but you move pretty slowly. Like your dash is shorter. Your buster has a limited range, but it's really powerful. And there we have the Falcon armor, where you can fly around and you're invincible when you're flying, but your buster shot is really concentrated, but it goes through things like that. And you have a different like super attacks for each, and it was really cool. Then X6, which you mentioned, is a shadow armor, is like the ninja one. You can like go on attach on the ceiling or the walls on it. You shoot like these like energy shurikens.
Yeah, that's what I kind of liked.
And that also had the blade armor for that one too, where you could do like a specialized air dash, and that one was pretty fun. And X7 ditched the multiple armors, that only had one, and then X8 went back to multiple armors that had the Hermes or Icarus one, and plus there was like a neutral base.
Well, and then I know some of the X games also had like the codes that you could put in for like Black Zero, and then like the ultimate armor that has like unlimited uses of the Giga Crush or whatever.
Yeah.
But, and they looked slightly different than if you got the armor through the game, which was kind of interesting.
In X4, if you do a code, I believe for X it's circle twice, left 4 times, L1, R2 start.
God, I don't remember off the top of my head.
And it lets you get the ultimate armor where you would normally get the boots in Web Spider stage.
The ultimate armor is awesome.
And it's just, you get it right away, you get the whole set, and you can use Nova Strike unlimited times where you're invincible and you do tons of damage and you can just like fly back and forth and you just rip through the game.
Yeah.
If you get it normally, you can do the Nova Strike just limited use and it looks a little different. And you can also do like the Black Armor 0. Then X5 also had the codes, so you could do that to get Ultimate Armor or Black Armor 0. But that game, you can actually get Ultimate Armor. You can find it in that. In X5, at the end of the game, you're actually able to find it in the thing 0 stage 2. Just before, like, your encounter where if you're X, you'd fight 0, and 0, you'd fight X.
Oh, that's right, because that's the one where he's infected by the virus, right? Yeah.
Yep, so that, I can definitely go at length with the story of the X series. I
remember, like, the overarching story,
yeah.
and then, like, little pieces for certain games. But, like, yeah, they kind of just blend together as, like, one massive thing to me.
Well, that was one thing that I loved about the X series, was the fact that it started to develop a story.
Yep.
And it actually had, like, an in-depth thing to it, whereas, the original series is just like, all right, now I'm fighting this set, and there's no real concrete. It's kind of more of just
Wily was bad, that's the story.
But, like, in the X series, it started to develop characters, and you had, like, a sense of progression and stuff like that.
I always looked at original series as this sort of, fun Saturday morning cartoon where it's like, oh, like, that Wily, and it's fun and it's colorful, and I always love those. Like, you can go to that. And the X series I saw as more as, it's sort of like this, like, anime series aimed at teenagers, where it has, like, it's a little darker. It's still not, incredibly grim. Like, it does have some pretty dark moments. And it has a sense of continuity, and has these recurring characters, and actually has things that carry over from game to game, and they reference earlier games. So
it's almost like a weird parallel between, like, the original Dragon Ball series and Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would equate it to.
Yeah, but I mean, Dragon Ball never had moments like this short, fat guy you thought is your friend transforming to a big, tall dude and killing your friends.
Yeah, that was pretty shocking for X.
Like, the first time I saw that, I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, especially that was surprisingly graphic for that, where it's like you saw the other Reploids get chopped up.
Yeah, you don't even know that, do you? Like,
no, it's an X4. That's when he's played. That's one on Saturn.
That at all?
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember what's the character's name.
Double.
There we go.
Double. Yeah, he was badass.
Which, in hindsight, it's pretty obvious.
His name, Double Agent. Come on.
So, but yeah, it's just one where you see, like, if you watch the opening, cinematic for the game, it's like, oh, look, all these cool characters, and you have this, and he's like, oh, he's like the bumbling assistant. He's funny. And at the beginning, if he
turns into a badass,
if you're
fuck.
But he only shows up if you're playing as X. So he's
right.
So X and Zero have a different, like, penultimate battle.
Yeah, I know. Zero, you fought
Iris.
Was it Iris?
Yeah. So his is a more tragic thing, where it's this because you killed her brother. So
what are we fighting for? Oh God, the voice acting's so good. Which one is it? We would always quote the Mega Man thing.
Mega Man 8 voice acting is one that I
there
love.
We go.
Just because it's like when it came out, at the time, I'm like, man, like I wanted this to be good. I'm embarrassed by this, and we now, like, it's just hilarious and silly, and I'm like, yes, I'm all for this. This is great. If you watch, especially like the scene where it's Dr. Light talking to Mega Man in the lab, and he's like, we must find all the evil energy immediately. Mega Man, like that's not me doing it. Like, he paused and forgot Mega Man's name. He almost called him Wily. He's a W.
Oh my God.
And he's like, but where is Dr. Wily? That's a good question. When we find Dat Media, we'll find Dr. Wily.
Dr. Wily. Oh my God.
And, like, it just kills me, and it's fun. And I suppose it's even better is if you play the Legacy Collection, you can actually play it in Japanese, so you can hear the original version if you want to, or you can play with the English voice acting if you want to.
He wouldn't be able to make it through with the Japanese voices.
Nope.
The first time they started talking, he dropped the controller. And
I'm not that bad.
Yes, you are.
So
what was the Tales game on Vita that you just immediately stopped playing?
Tales of Hearts.
There we go.
God, I was pissed. I'm like, I don't know what to say.
He stopped playing because I started speaking Japanese, and there was no English option.
I don't mind it. Like, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, I love. Even though that game doesn't have English voice acting. Like, I really loved that game. It depends on the game, I guess. Because there are certain ones I don't mind it, and then there are certain ones where I'm like, alright, like...
I think, wasn't your big put off that you didn't know what they were saying in the middle of battle?
Yeah, they would have these quips and stuff that they're saying in the middle of the fight, and there's obviously no subtitle for it in the middle of a fight, so I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it was just so funny watching his reaction with it. I was like,
I mean,
it's so bad.
I guess I always preferred having that way. Like, I usually liked it when it was with the Japanese voices and
you know what they're saying?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in most cases, it's not really that big. There's like Doria, and like there's basically like
you're ugly,
or say like there's like making like a attack grunt or a sound. So it's not really, a lot of times they're not even really using words, but
no, it's, I don't know, maybe it's the fact that like I have a hard time getting into a story that I don't know what they're saying. Like,
that's fair.
One thing that actually kind of annoyed me, Coda Princess came out not that long ago.
The remaster,
yeah, the remaster for the Switch. I loved it on the 3DS. It was really, really good. So I'm like, all right, cool. I picked it up for the Switch and everything, and on the 3DS, it was English dubbed. It was I think Atlas did it on the 3DS, and I think Nicholas did it on the Switch. The team who did like, or the people who did like Cave Story and ones like that. And so I'm like, okay, cool, this will be neat. And I plug it in for the Switch. Nobody's speaking English, and I'm like, what? How did this happen? Like, it's already been in English, like English voice acting and everything on the 3DS, and maybe they couldn't get
I think it was
the translation thing for. So I don't know. But anyway, I like played it for 5 minutes. And I'm like, I can't do this on the Switch. By the way, you need a copy of Coda Princess for the Switch?
Sure.
You're gonna have it.
Okay, cool.
Which is sad because I loved that game. It was like Guardian Heroes was for the Saturn.
I think a big thing was just it was a rights issue. I think
probably
because usually when a studio translates something, they own that particular translation.
But like you just can't do it. Like, it's already been in English. Like, it's already translated. Just fucking get some different voice actors to do it. Like, it annoys me. But like, as far as like games with Japanese, like the Tokyo RPG Factory or whatever that does Lost Sphere, I Am Setsuna, none of their games have ever been English for voice acting. And those games I don't mind. Oninaki and those, they're really, really good. But I can play those. I don't know what it is. It's just something about, I don't know. It's very strange to me. It feels to me like in this day and age, there's really no reason for it. You know what I mean? If you're going to bring it here, bring it here.
I mean, it is expensive, and I mean, it's something that does take time. Like, I know a lot of fans, like, when a game comes out of Japan, it's something that they want here right away. Mm-hmm. But there is a lot that goes into that, and it's something where if you want a good localization, like, it's going to need time, and it's going to need money, and it's going to need people to work on it. And I know a lot of fans like, oh, like, well, just do it. But yeah, like, there's a lot that's involved to it. Like, Legend of Heroes series, some people wanted, but that's extremely lengthy, and they were pretty short staff. And like, I think, what was it? The first Legend of Heroes games is like 1.5 million characters worth of text.
Oh yeah, and they're extremely content.
It's like a massive, like 1,000-page novel, and having someone do that, like, that's a huge endeavor. And if you say, okay, we'll hire multiple translators, like, okay, but then you have multiple people's conflicting interpretations and writing styles.
Yeah, right.
You have to have editors make sure they all stay on style, and you have to have people proofing those, and you have to like, if you're doing voice too, like, then you have to think, okay, like, do I just do a performance? Do I do the original rights holders have any input on it? Am I going to match like the flaps, like if they have actually like animation if they're speaking, like, or do I just go exactly what they're saying, or am I going to be localizing the names, like, and changing them for an English version? It's like there's it's one thing where a lot of people just want it, but
well, and then like when it comes to like audio dubbing, you have to secure individual rights for the voice actors. You have to work with them to be like, well, this is the the type of. It's not just here's the paper, go read it. It's
right.
It's a whole vocal coaching type thing of this is what we want you to sound like. This is what the character's doing, and so.
Well, don't you think the game would have just a bit more success here if?
To be honest, it depends on the series and the individual game. Yeah. It's really weird because like Oninaki's a great example where like it has all the voice acting and stuff, and it's all I can't really is it Japanese or is it just made up?
I think it is in Japanese.
But like that's one of those games where I don't know if translating it and having actual voice dialogue would work because it would just feel weird.
Well, I could see it as. In one sense, it goes as a cost thing. Like, if I keep the originals and I know if I can keep the original voice acting, and I don't have to dub it, that saves me money. Yeah. But on the other hand, too, you can also look at it as far as like demographic and what they're looking at. Sometimes, I I think in the 90s they didn't see there's a market for it, but now I think people do have a market for having things in the original language. Some people want that, which I usually do. Like I like foreign films, I like things that are subtitled, so I like seeing things in their native language. So I think that some companies are looking at that way, where it's like, well, this might actually perform better if I do it this way as a conscious decision. So there's a lot you have to see, and some I can definitely see them going multiple ways for it.
Well, and there's also like the weird exceptions, like the original Metal Gear Solid. The guy that translated it, like, he put his own spin on some of the dialogue, and the game is more known for his translation than the original language it was written in.
Yeah,
like the stuff he wrote and translated. Kojima actually got pissed at him because he changed some of the dialogue, because he can't just do a direct translation 1-to-1. Things just don't sound right when you talk sometimes.
Yeah. Right.
Because like we say, like we would be like, like the red ball, but in Japanese it'd be like
Akai Maru.
Yeah, it'd be like something ball red, the way it's written out.
Well, no, I in that case, like, you'd have, if it's modifying a noun, it's like Akai, like red, and then like Boru is like that, so it's like Akai, like that case. But for normal like sentence construction, one way to think of it is their verb always goes at the end.
Yeah, there we go.
So you get that way. So I kick the ball for English, like they have as a subject verb and a direct object. For them, like it would be the ball kicked. And you could do like that, and sometimes like personal pronouns are dropped, and for verbs like that, and you have a lot of different conjugations to go to. Plus, you have like passive, or you have honorific, or humble, or extra modest form, and there's a lot of different things there. There's a lot of reference.
Yeah. So like I have a video. I'll have to have you watch it one of these times. But like the translation, like I said, for Metal Gear Solid, like the guy had to change enough that when Kojima finally went back through and listened to it, he was pissed.
Yeah.
Like, he was not happy with the translation, but the translation is the better known, more accepted version because it is just a better quality, surprisingly.
I don't know. That's why I do really like games that give you the option.
See, I prefer dual.
The Japanese or the English. I always like that kind of stuff.
You also think of space constraints too. You got things like it's especially so in earlier games, but even so, it still carries to today, where you have if you're subtitling like for video, you have a limited space on the screen for a limited time to do those things. So you might have like 40 characters across for however long they're speaking, and if they're speaking quickly, there. Plus, like, what if there are signs or there's things in the background that people would want to see?
Yeah.
And for games, you have like text boxes, but like you have a certain scroll speed you want to go through, and you have certain things there, and you're like, okay, I can't bloat the language too much, then I might make the text small to fit, or that, and yeah. And then for older games, like, you had a certain amount of memory you had to work with, so
right.
A lot of old Square RPGs were translated by Ted Woolsey, a pretty famous book there, and I know he has a kind of his own spin for a lot of those games. They had a lot of like Woolsey-isms. But a lot of things were truncated just because of space constraints. So, if you're playing, Final Fantasy 6 or 3 on Super Nintendo, like, there are a lot of things that are kind of trimmed down just so because they have to fit those text boxes.
Yeah.
And then time constraints for translating too.
Yeah. As that's just one guy doing it, and for a limited time, and usually get that right out the door.
Yeah. All right. I guess.
But that's not to say like not all localizations are necessarily better now. Because if you play the new Sword Art games, they are pretty rough.
Oh yeah,
really?
They like the translation. I shut off. Like, if there's an option to make people quiet, I make them quiet because it's bad.
As bad as like
it's not Arkwright's. It's not Arkwright's Fantasia.
Oh, you're talking about the voice acting.
All of it. It's just.
It's also like the script is like it's mistranslated, or have typos, or it's.
Well, didn't you say East 8 was really bad? Didn't they call like the chasm where the big hole?
Yeah.
Or something stupid?
Yeah, it was so like instead of like Great Chasm, it's just like Archazoic Big Hole. But East 8 had a lot of issues.
So much so they went back and repatched the entire translation.
They actually went through the entire game. It wasn't just that it like. There are certain things that are like stylistically wrong, and certain things that are just like awkward or unnatural. But certain things were just like they could actually hurt the player. Like certain item descriptions said the wrong thing, so you thought you'd be getting a buff for something, but you weren't.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I never paid attention to that. I don't use items very often.
Yeah, so it was, like there were things like people would not get what they're supposed to, so it was pretty wide-reaching. It's like at some points like.
Mm-hmm. And I really hope they don't repeat that mistake with East 9, because it looks so good.
Oh, yeah, I'm hoping they'll avoid it, because like they did address it pretty heavily with East 8 in the remaster. There are still some quirks with the retranslation they did.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys follow, I like Clyde Mandel a lot. He goes by Mado. He does his Legends of Localization series, and he does really in-depth analyses of a lot of translations. And
Mm-hmm.
he had talked a lot about Ease 8, so if you're interested, like I definitely recommend that. But
Yeah,
I'm hoping that they'll apply kind of what happened with 8 to Ease 9.
Okay. Yeah, I'm about to say, because I'm psyched as fuck for what is it Nostrum, whatever the fuck the fucking name is called.
Monstrum Nox.
There we go.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I can't remember.
I was trying to think. I'm like, all I remember is running up walls like Naruto. So.
Anyway, way off topic. X series. What would be your favorite game in that series?
For me, I love many of them, but it's always X1. Mega Man X is
I think that's the most iconic.
Is tied for my favorite game of all time with Chrono Trigger. Those two are my favorite. But Mega Man X to me it is a perfect action game. Like everything about that game is fine-tuned and just incredible, and I can go back and play it at any given time.
Yeah.
And it's one where I really can't think of anything wrong. I know people say, "Oh yeah, these other games of the 16-bit generation," but for me, like Mega Man X is the perfect action game.
Oh,
and that's one of the reasons I think, like, I have debates like SNES and Genesis. Like that's why I'd go to SNES every time. Is that has Mega Man X? It's an incredible game.
Well, even just look at the disparity between like would have been 6 at the time and then X. Yeah. It's like X was still like the original series. You had the Robot Masters you fought, although they weren't like something man. It was some sort of an animal or whatever. But it was still basically at heart, it was a Mega Man game. You fought them, but it had it was more in depth. There was more of a story to it, and such like that. And it was still such a huge leap forward. I don't know why that word came out.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It was such a huge leap forward in the Mega Man franchise that, like, even when 7 came out, it's still, like, 7 felt good, but you're like, I want more X. Like, I think 7 whet the appetite for the original series, but, like, for most people, they were like, oh, I want to see where this X series goes, rather than more of the main line.
I'd say, overall, I think X has the art style that attracts me more.
Definitely, because Mega Man's more grown-up-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's Zero. I mean...
Zero is...
Fucking Zero.
He's all, like...
Is anybody more 90s than Zero?
Like, he is definitely one of, like, these really cool, like, pitch-perfect characters where he came out and everyone loved Zero when he came out. Like,
everyone lost their shit.
He has all the best scenes in that. Like, he comes out and he rescues you, and he's sort of, like, he's the mentor you aspire to. And just, like, he has an incredible character design. And he's just well-loved by, like, everyone.
I mean, Mega Man flat out can't even hurt Vile the first time they meet him, and Zero beats the hell out of him.
Yeah, and it just that to me, like, that sets up everything so well in the story. Like, you go through, and it's like in the Ego Raptor video, like, it teaches you kind of how to play, and a lot of it feels familiar, like the run speed and the shootings, like classic Mega Man. So you're already into it, and you're thinking, yeah, I'm good. And Vile comes out and just totally wrecks you, and you're like, man. But then you see Zero, and he blows the arm off of Vile's mech and just completely, like, ruins. You're like, whoa, man, Zero is super cool.
I'm trying to think. It's like the first time in the franchise I can think, too, where you have to lose 2 different fights.
Yeah.
Because I don't think any of the mainline ones did that up to that point.
Not that I can think.
Because you lose to Vile twice before you ever beat him.
Yeah, in the second encounter, too. Like, you fight him when you're powered up, and you still get...
And Zero breaks out of his cage, stabs him in the back to ruin the mech.
Well, he blows himself up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right, because he's only a torso.
Yep. Yeah, he blows himself up, and that was our scene. It's like, oh god, Zero! Like, it was just really cool, and it's It to me, it also made Vile a really, like, threatening and cool character, because he's a great character design.
You mean Purple Boba Fett?
No, he's not just saying.
He is he's really cool. He's really menacing.
Yeah.
But when you finally beat him, you feel like, yeah, like I did it.
Yeah, and then I liked being able to play as Zero when they introduced that was nice too.
Yeah.
I also liked when Mega Man could get the Z Saber.
Yep.
That was pretty fun because it was a bit different to have Mega Man not shooting. So.
Yeah, I would say so. Mine, obviously, the only one I really had growing up was Mega Man X4 for the Saturn, and I fell in love with it. I absolutely loved X4. I thought the music was on point, the graphics were gorgeous, and just the story in general, the 4, I loved. I liked the whole idea of the Colonel and the thing. I have to say, though, the only real thing I hate about the X series, I hate Sigma. I think Sigma is such a bitch. He's like Wily. Like, no matter how many times I beat you, just go away. Like, I'm back! No shit.
Well, you would like X8 then.
Thank you. But, like, I hate that. Like, they kind of even do that in the mainline series where you're fighting Dr. Cossack, and then you just find out that, they're still Wily.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of a thing that I never really cared for in certain games. Yeah. It was like the Batman Joker idea, where he never actually beats Joker. Like, Joker just magically comes back.
To be honest, I think Joker has a better dynamic, though, because he's more tied in with the overall stuff. Sigma is like, I'm there, and I'm just kind of a thing.
I'm gonna fuck with this.
To be honest, in some of the X games, it felt like Sigma was a placeholder for another villain for them to design. Well, and then they just they were just kind of like, screw it, we'll just leave it as Sigma instead of actually making a new villain.
Team Sigma blast off again. Yeah. But I mean, I understand the point of him with like the whole Sigma virus thing and how he corrupts people, but it's just, I don't know. I'm always ready for the next villain, I guess, and X kind of never delivered on that for me. But I still love the series. I think it's great.
I guess there's a few things I'll share. Like, there are a few times when they do kind of subvert that a little bit. Command Mission is a different villain for that one. Also, X8 actually does a reverse kind of fake out for that, where you think it's Sigma and it's not.
That's true.
And that one where it's Lumine, who's one of the new generation Reploids, and he basically is like, like, if Axel can transform, we all can transform. We can turn into him. By the way, we can all transform into Sigma if we want to.
Yeah.
But it's Lumine's like, no, I don't need him. Like. So they go there, and I do like how a lot of fans have gone that I think it puts greater context in Sigma's kind of role in the story when you think about how a lot of fans think Dr. Wily is working in the background of the X series, similar to how Light supports X. And there's a lot of cool things supporting that fan theory, especially in X6.
I know there was discussion of whether or not Light is still technically alive.
Oh, I'm definitely thinking he is.
Because, like, when you actually talk to his hologram in the power-up things, it's not just a...
pre-recorded conversation.
Yeah, it's not pre-recorded, and also he actually reacts to X at various points during the game, which made a lot of people think, well, maybe he's now an AI living in the system.
So, that's exactly what I and many others think, is that he exists as an AI supporting X because he is aware of current events. He mentions people's names that he could not have known. Like, he mentions Alia in X5, and he shows what's going on. And I think it's also why, like, there's no way Dr. Light could have known X would have been at these locations for these capsules to support him. So I think that he is still controlling them in a certain way through AI and basically having, like, nanomachines or something set them up at certain areas to support him, but stay out of the way enough so he's not being seen by anyone else.
Yeah.
But
he's not trying to directly influence X.
So he's trying to support him. And at the same time, I think there are many hints that Dr. Wily is working in the background trying to screw things up. Because X5, Sigma mentions a partner who hates X. He's like, I found someone who hates you. And he mentions working with someone. And in X6, there's a character named Isaac in that who you really know nothing about. And he shows an understanding of Zero that's really uncanny. Whereas at the time, like, no one in the X series can figure Zero out. Like, they're like, he's way too advanced to the point where even future technology still can't understand what is Zero tech. He's so advanced that they can't figure him out. But Isaac, instantly knows how to and can remotely shut Zero down. Like, he knows how to do it right away. Like, when Zero tries to attack, he's like, nope. I'm like, how the hell would someone who just met Zero know how to do that?
Yeah.
And also later in the game, Isaac basically just deactivates.
Well, especially because when Wily stored Zero away, the only plans for Zero are in Zero.
Yeah.
Like, there is no other information on him. Right. The entire lab gets destroyed and stuff. So there is nothing left of him being built other than him.
So my personal interpretation is the virus actually originated in Mega Man 8. So the evil energy, that is the origin of the virus. And it shows that it can infect living things like Wily as well as mechanical things. And it makes them more powerful. Like, all the robots that get more powerful in that. So I think that at the time, we know Wily was working on Zero, and I think that was the origin of that. So that's kind of how it starts. And
that would also kind of explain, like, the fairy things in the Zero series.
The cyber elves.
That are able to affect both the electronic and the physical. Oh, yeah.
And then, at the time, I think that Wily was working on Zero as his masterpiece, because even Base knows that he's working on it. He criticizes Wily all the time for, like, no, you have me, like, why do you need him? And Wily's like, no way, like, this is going to be way more powerful than you. Some people think that Zero woke up and killed Wily, or that I'm not sure if people, go to that idea or not, but in any case, I think that Wily had passed away at some point, in my mind of old age at time, and Zero was still in the capsule, and Wily was still supporting him as an AI. Like, he uploaded his consciousness to do so. And at some point, Zero is active and is roaming around, but he's not complete. He's not finished. Because if you look at how Zero looks in X1, he has, like, the rounded shoulders, but all the designs you see in the classic series, he has the squared ones like he does later. Yeah. And he has a sword and everything. So I think that he wasn't actually finished at that time. And in the flashback scene in X4, when he fights Sigma, partway through the fight, like, Zero is clearly winning. He's going to kill Sigma. Like, he's ripping him apart. And he just suddenly stops, and there's a W insignia. So I think that Wily's like, oh shit, he remotely accesses Zero. He's like, oh no, he's up. I gotta fix this. He doesn't know he's fighting Sigma at the time. Like, he didn't do it to, like why would he care? He wouldn't want to save Sigma. He doesn't know. Yeah. So I think that he just remotely accessed Zero at that time and tried to fix him. And basically, like a computer, like, Sigma hit him and knocked him out and fucked him up as he's trying to reboot. So he basically corrupted it.
Yeah.
So that's why he woke up different and forgot it. And I was like, shit, like, now I can't remotely access him now. Like, something happened. So I think, and also at that point, is that evil energy in Zero transferred to Sigma at that time as well.
That's the stuff. So 8 is the one with Duo, right?
Yeah, Duo is basically intergalactic space cop.
Yeah, and there was that. Was it like the goo or whatever? What the fuck
energy.
was it? Yeah, it was like space energy.
Yeah, Mega Man 8. A lot of the Mega Man games deal with things from space.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm gonna say I know that becomes prevalent in the Star Force series. I think it is, where it's the XM waves, they're living energy waves from space that start infecting everything.
Yeah. So that one's a really weird Mega Man too. So that one, like, Mega Man it's FME.
Yeah, he's an
alien
that
alien. Fuses with a kid and becomes that Mega Man.
Yeah, it's interesting.
He's kind of cool. I like his design. It's Omega Zis is the name for it. He's like a weird, like, blue alien cat thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's
weird.
It gets a little weird, but it still keeps the whole, like, the other influence coming in. So.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, I thought that at that point, like, that's kind of happens to Zero. So when Zero dies in X1. In X2, there's the whole thing about getting his parts back, and there's these counter hunters. I think that at the time, like, when you get his parts back, he looks more like how he's supposed to. I think that they were acting under orders from Wily, or that Surgis, one of them, is Wily.
Yeah.
Because he even mentions, like, a memento of Dr. Light. Like, he mentions things that he should not know.
Yeah.
And I think that what happened is they got Zero's parts, repaired into what he was supposed to be, thinking that they would be able to get him. Because in one of the scenes in X2, if you don't get Zero's parts, you fight him.
Oh, that's right. We didn't do that in our playthrough, I don't think.
If you get Zero's parts, he's on your side and he destroys a copy. But if you don't get him, like, you have to fight Zero.
I remember. Yeah.
So, like, I think they want to get him. But Zero, I think, was basically able to resist more. He's like, no, like, I have my own personality. I have my own identity. Like, I'm not going to let you do this. And Wily keeps trying to bring Zero to his side up to X5, where he actually Zero's infected again with the virus, or, the energy. And in one ending of X5, he can become his Maverick form again, where he's really powerful, and you see him like floating with like evil energy, and you have to fight him. So I think that's kind of what it's building to.
Fight too.
Yes. He's hard. And then and if you're playing as like X and you encounter Sigma's like, oh, like, you know, I have a partner now and I have someone who hates you, and I'm like, okay, like that's a pretty clear signal, like who this could be. So I always like that where they don't explicitly show you that. There's a lot of like flashbacks and things, and so a lot of fans can lead to that. But that's my interpretation of that.
Well, it makes as much sense as anything else.
Well, yeah, and I didn't say it's also one of those things where it never really made like, okay, yeah, I get the whole like Reploids are better than normal humans. Basically, it's the entire concept like with Skynet and Terminator. Yeah. It's we're more advanced, we can do better. Humans are beneath us type like mentality. Not to mention humans treat us like garbage. We're disposable to them. Yeah. So like I get Sigma's whole okay, yeah, let's, you know, make this utopia for Reploid type stuff, but at the same time it's just one of those things where it's like, go away.
Well, that's what I kind of liked about a lot of the, I think it was a lot in the X games where where was I going with this?
I don't know.
Where they kind of, they had like an uprising of some sort where they're like, hey, or don't they just show, isn't there a part where they tell them flat out like...
Actually, it mirrors iRobot's like original story quite a bit.
Yeah, where like once they no longer serve their purpose, they're essentially just destroyed.
Or abandoned.
Or,
they do actually in the classic games, actually. Mega Man 9 is Dr. Wily appeals to the robots like, hey, you have an expiration date, and like you're going to be recycled.
Yeah. Because there was one, I like that, where some of the robot masters weren't exactly, like, they're not bad. They're just, well, that was kind of in the original one, wasn't it?
In the original, they have two. So the original series, they have a limited AI. Like, they don't have complete free will. They have to act within their program, but they do have personality, and they have a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
And they do it a lot, like, in the comics, like Needleman says, like, I don't want to fight you, I kind of have to. And he's like, I'm built this way, I don't have hands. And, like, he's really upset. And he's like, my parameters are destroy Mega Man, I don't have a wide range. And, like, he basically begs Mega Man to kill him in the comic. So it gets really dark.
Needleman should just one-shot Mega Man anyways. Spike!
It just, Needleman's like, he's like, hey, like, just take the shot and kill me. And I'm like, wow, it's really... I also like that the comic actually provides a nice explanation for why Mega Man doesn't like to hold on to powers. Because he feels excessively violent. He feels like, I don't know, like, I have too many... Like, I am too powerful at this. I don't like this feeling. Because he's a kid. He'd rather, like, spend time with his family and, like, it was like, he does not want to...
He wants to play soccer.
It's not like Metroid. It's not like Metroid, where she's just like, I'm super all-powerful. All right, go away. Guess I'll just go back to the regular Varia suit.
And in X's case, too, like, he's a pacifist. You know, he would rather probably, like, read. Or like, oh, he doesn't want to... He doesn't want to do this.
Well, that's why I think when he's in the Z series, where it's the
AI supporting Zero.
Yeah, he's the just the energy that you see. X is very different personality-wise than what he used to be.
Yeah.
I assume Zero kind of falls into the same relative timeline as like
far into the same.
So it's classic X Zero, and it kind of goes with like 100 years or so of each other. And then it goes to ZX after that, and then way ahead to Legends in one timeline.
Does it really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize Legends was
basically
that far ahead.
It's like the whole like Hyrule getting flooded type thing.
Yeah. I will say, because in Legends, aren't they all floating islands? Or no?
It's mostly water is the world.
Maybe that.
And there are certain islands around, and it's that's set thousands and thousands of years afterward.
I haven't played those in a long time.
But they reference earlier events to make you think they could be talking about things. Like Legends 2 mentions how there was a place called Elysium, which was a utopia, and that's the place X like mentions in the series that he wants to make a place called Elysium, which would be like a haven for everyone.
Yeah.
So I think that he did it. And there's a master they show in Legends 2 which looks like Zero. He's like wearing a robe and long blonde hair, where he's like a benevolent leader to this. So it makes you think like, okay, like maybe that had happened and Zero took over like this mantle to lead it for X. And they even have it, like, Legends talked about, like, purifier units who kept the peace, which sound like Maverick Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Essentially, cops.
I'm gonna say, to be honest, the Mega Man games have a better timeline than Zelda.
Oh, God, yes. And a much better timeline than Kingdom Hearts.
That's just...
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts timeline is pretty much just a tic-tac-toe board.
We need to spend nearly 8 hours to learn the story for Kingdom Hearts from someone who supposedly understands it really well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll touch briefly on the Game Boy series. Now, those are basically
they're
basically
versions.
like mashes of certain ones. Because isn't Mega Man 1 on the Game Boy 1 and 2?
Yep.
And then 2 is 3 and 4, and it kind of goes that way.
Yeah. So Mega Man 1 through 4 on the Game Boy are like that, where they combine things from the NES games.
Yeah.
But they have slight differences. So they have like some different music, or they have like their stage designs are different, and they also introduce other enemies. So they have the Mega Man Killer series.
Yeah.
Mega Man 1 has Enker, 2 has Quint, 3 has Punk, and 4 has Belade. And there has these other enemies to fight you. And they have a slightly different story. Like Mega Man 2, like Quint is Mega Man from an alternate future. Who is back in time. And they have other things going there. Then Mega Man 5 for Game Boy is actually, there's no man robots at all. And that one is you fight star droids, and like you're in space for that one, and the enemy isn't actually Wily, it's Sunstar, who's like an ancient robot from an alien civilization.
Yeah, well, let's just say I remember the star droids, but I couldn't remember which game that was actually in.
That one's 5.
Okay.
Also, kind of fun is you don't use your standard Buster in that one. You use like a rocket punch in that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Honestly, yeah, I didn't play I think I played the first one for Game Boy, and then I never played any of the others.
I liked Mega Man 1 for Game Boy. Mega Man 2, I didn't care for as much. That was pretty rough. 3 I thought was good, and 4 I thought was really good for Game Boy. But 5 is one that I think is really well loved by fans because it's really unique, and it's just it has great stage designs and like really interesting enemies and powers, and yeah, it's really cool. It also has Super Game Boy support, has unique backgrounds and stuff.
Oh,
pretty
cool. I always love that kind of stuff.
But that was really fun. But yeah, that idea of like mixing things together kind of carried over into the Game Boy Color games, because they have Extreme 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And so Extreme, they actually give a story explanation for why it's X1 and 2 bosses, but it's like you're basically going into this like virtual world, and like it's data that you're going into. So like you're fighting past versions of these things.
Oh, Kingdom Hearts Recoded.
Yeah, many years before that one.
Yeah. Actually, the one handheld one I did play was the one for the Game Gear, which I think was 4 and 5.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
Yeah. It's bosses from 4 and 5.
Yeah.
It's just called Mega Man.
Yeah.
And it was by I think US Gold.
I love that. Actually, that one was really good. I loved the Game Gear version.
The only problem is like it was really zoomed in and has a kind of weird scrolling, just because the Game Gear screen size is pretty tiny.
Yeah,
but
it was pretty
I liked
tight.
it. I mean, it looked nice too. Like it was in there. But that's one I liked growing up.
Yeah, me too. That was an interesting series. I would love to get they're expensive.
They are.
But I would love to get my hands on that series of Game Boy games. Paul obviously needs them for the Game Boy collection.
You don't have any of them?
He's got quite a few of them. Do I?
No, the Mega Man ones. Does Paul have the Game Boy?
I'm sure he does.
Oh.
I'll have to ask him specifically which ones
Mega
he does
Man
have.
5 is really expensive.
Yeah, I'm about to say I'm going to look up the prices for those in just a second. But so we'll go to like more of like the offshoot games, because obviously we talked about the Battle Network series. Yeah. Who can forget Surfer Zero from Command Mission? Dude, bro. Command Mission I actually really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I loved that, because I love when they take...
I really enjoyed the battle system. It was unique. It was turn-based, but you were still interacting a bit. And
yeah, I always loved... Because even Mario translated really well into the RPG genre with like the timed hits and stuff like that, which is why Paul liked it, because he was never a menu guy. He wants to constantly be hitting a button. And like Super Mario RPG, he had the timed hits and the timed blocks, and Mega Man was kind of like that. So there were a lot of games that translated very well to that RPG formula, which is something I'm surprised Zelda never really has done, where they've transferred to a full-blown like stats and level up RPG system.
Yeah, honestly, the closest Zelda gets to that would be Hyrule Warriors, where you can level up. But even then, I don't know. Zelda, while I think it could make a good RPG, I think it would be great. I think Zelda is one of those franchises where it's better with action than with slower stuff. Mega Man at least can fall back and be like, hey, we got this good story.
Yeah.
So that's why Command Mission, is it that expensive?
Just a loose copy of Mega Man for the Game Gear is $115.
Yep. I still got my copy.
So do I. That is crazy to me. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy is $11.
Yeah, that one's not as sought after.
3 is $23. 4 is 40.
Probably
48. 5 is 115.
Yep.
And it only went to 5, didn't it?
Yep.
For the Game Boy. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 5 is the one that's usually sought after. I would love to get a box copy because I just have a loose copy.
Oh, Tim. Oh, Tim.
How much?
A lot.
For 5?
$950
For a box for
a
5?
complete Mega Man 5 for the Game Boy.
Yep.
Do they take kidneys?
Keep dreaming, buddy.
Do they take kidneys, livers?
Jesus Christ. I don't see... Oh, Mega Man...
Although, to be honest...
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, because I've spent about half that on collector's editions before. So...
That's fine.
I can't complain, I suppose.
I can't find a Mega Man for the Game Boy, like an original Mega Man.
It might be under Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge.
Maybe. I'll look at
That's the title. But yeah, for Command Mission, I had really liked it. I've always liked, turn-based RPGs growing up, so I'm like, this is the thing I didn't know I wanted.
Smashes two of your favorite things together.
So
$11.
I remember when when the trailer came out, I watched that over and over. I was like, I'm really excited. I liked a lot of the new characters they introduced. I wasn't super thrilled about the story when it finally happened. No, I actually like that.
Energy cape.
Like I actually the stealth armor X. I like that they had it in the mobile game too. But I wasn't super nuts about the final story. I was hoping that they actually would tie it into the main X series or do more to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that part of it wasn't something I was thrilled about. But the battle system was really fun, and overall I really liked playing the game. And it had like this really cool, like you have like these weapons and sub weapons you could do. You had these action triggers which were unique to every character, so like a limit break. Like X could do like a charge shot for one. Zero had different like button command combos for his saber attacks. Mm-hmm. Then characters could transform into like this other state. So like X would get this like crossfire armor, or a little bit more powerful, or Zero would go to like his Black Zero form. And I did also like they were hidden ones later, like X could get ultimate armor, but it looked different in that. He looks like a Gundam, and it's really cool. He's like
I haven't actually finished that one.
It actually kind of looks like the armor from when you used his special in Marvel vs. Capcom,
where he has like these huge gun arms, and he's like just shoots everything. Zero also gets as Absolute Zero form as a secret one, which is pretty cool. He kind of looks like Base when he transforms. He has like these big wings and stuff.
Huh,
makes sense.
But it looks really cool, and yeah, like it was a lot of fun to play. I would love to see an HD remaster of that game as well as a sequel to that. That's one that I was a little let down that certain games weren't in the collections they've had so far. Like the classic Legacy Collection just did, like 1 through 10, they did those. Mm-hmm. But they didn't do the Game Boy games or Mega Man and Base or the Game Gear game or anything, like that.
Yeah.
And then for the X collections, they have, X1 through 8, but it does include Extreme or Command Mission.
Yeah, I liked the ones that were on like GameCube and PS2 that had like the power battles, the arcade games. Yeah. I thought those were a lot of fun actually.
Yeah, so those the Mega Man Anniversary collections for those they had Mega Man 1 through 8, and then the Power Battle and Power Fighters arcade games, and those ones are a lot of fun. I actually between playing those in the arcade and playing them there, like they're really fun to just
kind of dick around with. Yeah,
so that's what Mega Man needs. Mega Man needs like a Power Stone type game.
Oh man,
that would be cool.
Because I think instead of just doing like the Smash type formula, I think it would benefit from like more of the 3D environment and going all directions, up, down, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely could. There's a lot of different Robot Master characters that they could pull from, so there could be a lot of things in there, and that would be really cool.
That would be an interesting idea, actually.
A lot of Mega Man characters do translate well to fighting games. Like Zero is just perfect for Sony games. Like,
even like the ones that just shoot, like they could do combos, and then at the end of the combo do like the fireball from Street Fighter type thing.
Yeah.
And I know I've always been very critical of I'm not fond of how Mega Man plays in MVC 1 and 2.
Right. He's kind of a bitch character.
But I do really like how they had Mega Man and Smash Brothers, and how X plays in MVC Ultimate.
Yeah.
But, like, X they did really well that with a lot of his abilities, like in his different armors. Like, he was really fun to play. And for Mega Man for Smash, like, he feels really faithful to the character, like how he moves. He has like his standard Buster. He has different attacks, like he has a slide and everything else. Like he just feels really true to how he should feel.
Yeah, Zero
doesn't
and
summon
MVC.
a soccer ball.
He was so stupid in Mega Man 2, and I felt so bad for him. Or MVC 2.
Yeah,
he was just so useless.
Yeah, MVC 1 and 2. I'm just like, man. It's like I want to play as him because he's my favorite character, but like he's not viable.
They give him such a lame duck leaf shield and yeah, the soccer ball, and I think he had one more
tornado hold.
Yeah, the tornado hold, which was dumb.
But he does not feel very powerful compared to everyone else.
No, even
he's also really slow.
Roll and Serve Bot were just dumb.
Well, see,
But that was an MVC.
Overall, I think that's one of my biggest complaints with fighting games is. They're like, oh, we should make individual characters have different stats, you know. Like, no, just give everyone 1,000 HP, everyone does X amount of damage with light attack, with heavy attack, and just make everything even. That way every character is always viable.
Right. Good luck.
Yeah, well, but the problem is, like, the fighting game community would never go for something like that.
Well, no, it would eliminate the idea of specializing in any character over another.
But then, no, actually, it'd be better, because you'd have to learn the combos to actually be effective.
But you'd be just as effective as a guy who's faster, which I can.
No, but see, that'd be the whole thing. Is everyone would be the same speed? Everyone would be. It would just come down to the individual combo styles.
But then everybody's Ryu.
But look at the Marvel vs. Capcom fighting community. Everyone is Magneto, Sentinel, and Storm.
That's MVC 2. Yeah.
So like that's.
I definitely did like as I know that you're not as big fan of 3, but I do love that like. You see a lot of different characters being played all the time in 3, and that like for me, like I would always go to 0 because like he plays so well. Like,
he did play very well in that. I'll give him that.
But I would see a lot of people like I would fight against so many different kinds of characters, and I was like, man, like it's just that was great to me. Like I got like one of my favorite characters, and he feels great. Yeah. And like he represents well. Like he looks how he should, and he has moves that make sense for the character.
Amaterasu did very well too in MVC 3. I really liked Amaterasu.
Yeah.
So that's just that I was so happy about that. And I think Zero they've done pretty well for us. He's appeared in MVC 3, Ultimate MVC 3, then Marvel Capcom Infinite, and then Tatsunoko vs. Capcom.
Oh, that's right. He was in that one.
Yep.
I completely forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people tend to forget about that one.
That one also has Mega Man Volnut in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom.
That's right.
He's fun
he
in
does.
That too. He's really interesting. He has like his shield and his like machine gun arm, and like he's kind of a slower character, but he is really odd mix-ups of attacks.
Huh.
So he's pretty fun in that. That also has Roll in that one too.
Yeah. I always wish you could they utilized Roll a bit more. Because I love Roll as a character. Yeah. I think she's adorable. But she's always just like his maid.
She's always a joke character.
Yeah.
In Mega Man Powered Up, you're able to play as her, which is pretty
right.
fun. In other games, like they give her a bit more to do. I was hoping she would have been a playable character in Mega Man 11, because I do love how they slightly redesigned her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like that's one I want to see. I did like in one of the Mega Man cartoons, like she's shown like with a helmet and Buster, and like can do she can do the same things. Mega Man
she's also got vacuum cleaner arm.
Well, that one was in the 90s cartoon only. Yeah. Which I don't know. Like I'm like, wow, okay.
Nice.
Dustbuster arm, go.
So, like to me, like Roll should be able to do everything Mega Man can.
Yeah.
My favorite version of Roll is the Legends version.
I was just about to say I love her design.
It's like she has a great
games.
design. She's like this really witty mechanic. She's a genius inventor. Like she's the one who makes all the weapons. And like her dynamic with Mega Man is like.
I say, to be honest, she like after. Like, I had played those when, like, Mega Man Legends first came out. But, like, when Full Metal Alchemist came out, Winry reminds me of Roll from those games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm like, it's basically the same character.
Yeah. I can definitely see that.
She's you screw up your arm again, BAM!
Yeah, right. So let's talk about the games that's coming out soon. The Zero series. They're basically huge Metroidvania games, from what I remember.
For the ZX ones are.
Yes, that's what I meant. The ZX ones. The Zero games in general are, for one, they're very difficult. They are very hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I remember you get a lot of different weapons, and
you get different forms as well.
Different forms. It was there was a main hub, like your base, and then you went on missions.
Yep.
And I absolutely fell in love with those games because I think I clocked more hours on my Game Boy Advance, my SP, than any other handheld I'd ever had. And those were part of them. And I just remember absolutely loving the challenge of them and the overall aesthetic of the Zero games, more than the X series.
Getting other weapons that weren't just, I have Buster, I have Sword.
I have gun.
I liked getting the shield.
Yep.
The spear.
That you could change direction on mid poke.
Yeah.
You get the spear extensions.
I'm trying to think, what are the fists? I think was
one. That's in in 04 you get that. So in the first Zero game you have the triple rod, which you can get, and there's the shield, and you have a Buster and your saber. And you can get different elemental properties.
Yeah, I remember that.
You want to, so you can get that when you charge it. You can be have an elemental shot, like fire or electricity. So you get those. And later games they added a few more things, like Zero 4 is one which has the Zero Knuckle, where you can pull enemies apart and take their weapon. So
cool.
Even the standard enemies. So there's an enemy it's basically a turret. You just rip it apart and take it.
I think I only ever played the first 2 and part of 3. I don't think I ever played 04.
Yeah.
And then I played the first ZX, which I loved.
I do like the ZX games a lot. And they, like you mentioned, ZX is more of that kind of Metroid style, where it's a little non-linear, and you're exploring around a map there. Mm-hmm. It follows the kind of same through line, after Zero. So in the ZX games, you have these different transformations. So you can transform. You start with a Model X, which is you have X things, and you get to ZX, so you have Buster and Saber, but then you get to models based on the 4 Guardians from Zero. So it's Harpuya, Fafnir, Phantom, and Leviathan. You get their different powers, and then ZX Advent, you can change on the bosses that you defeat.
That's cool.
So you get that one. You start with Model A, which I think is supposed to be a reference to Axel. But then you get
lame,
which you can transform into the bosses and use their abilities, which I thought was really cool. And you explore this different world map. So I've always really loved the ZX games. I felt like they didn't really get as much attention.
No,
it sadly ended with just the 2 games.
Yeah,
and I've always wanted them to have a ZX3.
Well, I know you could pick between 2 different characters in the ZX. Yeah,
and both actually.
Yeah, because I always chose the girl. What was the big difference between the 2?
In the first one, not really. It's Vent and Ale. And
that's what it was.
There's not really much difference. The second one is Gray and Ash, and they actually do have a story difference in Advent.
Okay.
So it's Ash is a treasure hunter in that one. I forget Gray's, but in the first game, not really. Also, depending who you pick in Advent, you fight a different person from the first game too.
Oh, cool.
So I think if you're Ash, then you fight Vent, and if you're Gray, you fight Ale.
Oh.
So you fight the opposite gendered character.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to those games. The bosses I remember were brutal. I remember they just did so much damage and they were so hard to defeat.
The Zero games were pretty tough. 1 was really known for his pretty high level of difficulty.
Yeah, well, it was just so. It almost took you aback a bit because you were like, all right, well, I'm used to the X games. This can't be much different. And then you just get your ass handed to you and you're like, all right, this is going to take some study. You can't just plow into it thinking you're going to...
style.
No, you're not going to overpower these things. It was definitely a different mindset, which the series had really never seen before. So,
and then
it was fascinating.
Introducing the cyber elves, where each one did different things, and you collected them.
Yeah,
and you could only use them each one once, and then they were gone.
Yeah.
And I know there was one of them. If you collect all of them, you get something.
I'm trying to think what that is.
Sure, you're not thinking of.
Well, no, I think it's you get one more. I think you get Mother Elf or whatever it is.
Well, that's in the story for it. So 02, the plot of that game is, 02 you find X's body X's physical body, and he's sealing away this entity that's called the Dark Elf, which is able to corrupt things kind of like the virus does. And the villain of that game, El Piso, he ends up breaking X's body, like he stabs it and releases it so he could use its power. But what it actually was originally was the Mother Elf, which was like a benevolent entity. So you try to restore it to what it was. The story of the Zero games I really liked.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I know they kind of had an about face of when you first play the first Zero, it makes you think X is evil. You go to it like it sounds like X is like ruling Neo Arcadia with an iron fist and exterminating anyone who gets in his way. And you're like, what? Like, I had all these games where he was the protagonist, like, but at the end they reveal like he's a copy of X. Made like in X's absence, like someone's like, well, we don't have Mega Man X anymore to help us, so I'm gonna make a new one. Yeah, and it didn't turn out too well. Like,
did not work according to plan.
Like, you can't really just copy them. Because X, he's naturally benevolent and kind, and the copy is like, well, I'm really powerful, so
yeah, right.
Like, why should I listen to you?
Yeah. And I remember that distinctly, too, thinking, oh, X is a bad guy in this one. I was like, that's kind of interesting, considering, like, Zero he's a good guy, but he's kind of a bad guy in the X series, but not really. I don't know, it's complicated. There's a complicated relationship there. But then you play the Zero games, and he's, like, the main protagonist.
He's the protagonist, that one.
Yeah, but it was really cool.
It's also kind of interesting to find out that that's not Zero's original body. Because in 0-3, you fight Omega, which is Zero's original body.
Oh, that's right. I remember that part, but I don't think... I remember seeing that, but I don't think I got that far. I don't remember. It's kind of hazy. I played these games years ago.
Well, that'd be a good chance to. I know that they are available to download on the Wii U. For that eShop, but I feel like it'll be easier just to get the new collection, because that way you get all 4 of them plus EX.
Plus you get the filters and
Can you even buy them on the Wii U anymore? I thought the Wii U store was shut down already.
I think it's still available.
Huh. I know the Wii. Wii's done. Yeah, it has been done for a long time.
For the Wii eShop is done. You can't add funds or buy things.
I thought the Wii U one was done as well.
I didn't think so, but I'm not sure.
I don't know. My Wii U's not plugged in, but I've always meant to go back to my Wii U.
But I mean, at this point, I would just get this new collection, because it'd be a nice package of all the Zero games and then the 2 ZX games, and you get the different visual filter options, and you get like the extra bonus mode. Mm-hmm. So.
It's funny, of this age that we're in for gaming, they're releasing all these collections for stuff. Yeah. What collection do you think they should do? And it could be any series. Like, actually, I just had recently played some of, and I know a lot of people didn't like it, I loved Final Fantasy 13. Yeah. And I loved that whole 3-game series. I liked all 3 of them. Yeah. And I'm surprised they haven't actually done, like, a collection for those 3 yet.
I would give that one another shake. I feel like it got a really bad rep, but...
It really did.
I would give it another shake.
I absolutely adored the characters, and I loved the story to it, and I liked it a lot more than 12, to be honest, and I didn't care for 10 very much. Yeah. But I 10 got the remaster treatment, and 12 did as well. It's like, I hope they kind of look at like 13 and release a series or release a collection for that.
I think for me, just to continue on the Mega Man, I would love to see like a Mega Man Legends pack, like remaster, like do like a full HD remakes of Legends 1 and 2, like remastered together. Like that to me would be.
Well, you know what they could do?
I would lose my mind
if they were smart. They would release a Mega Man Legends collection, because it seems to be a fairly common thing they've been doing with like the NES Classic and the SNES Classic, where they're releasing a game that was never previously here on those systems. How much would you come? And I mean this literally. How much would you jizz your pants if they released a Mega Man Legends collection and they put out Mega Man Legends 3? Like they were having that game in development and finishing that off the whole time in secret.
I would not have enough pants.
I honestly, if they were smart, we've been waiting for that game forever.
Yep, that was actually why I bought a 3DS. They announced that game, and I'm like, I'm pre-ordering this right now. Yeah, and I joined the dev room. I was one of the serve bots for that. I was on the forums. I put forth ideas. Like, I was super excited. I'm like, this is great. They're having fan input. This is what like I can't wait. Oh, it's delayed. All right, no, that's fine. Oh, they're doing a demo now. Okay. Oh wait, now it's a paid demo. Well, they gotta support it. Now it's canceled.
It's such a God. What an emotional roller coaster Legends 3 has been.
And that was canceled around the same time as Mega Man Universe and Mega Man Online.
Yeah, that's right.
And online would have been cool because that would have been a 2D side-scroller RPG set in the X universe as a co-op like online game for like a small party. It would have been like a 2 to 4 player like make your own Maverick Hunter game as an RPG.
It kind of almost would have been like that Dragon Marked for Death or like Harmony of
really good.
And then they had that, and there was Universe, which was like basically Mario Maker before that as Mega Man. Like that's what it was, and it was like you could play Mega Man 2, but you could make all your own levels.
God,
and I'm like,
awesome.
And like Mega Man's always been really like ahead of the curve for that, but no one's really appreciated that.
No.
And then of course Legends 3, which they showed things for it, and it looked great. They had new characters.
Yeah.
And
it was no Tron. Misadventures of Tron.
I like that one.
God, I actually never played that one. It's very expensive as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, usually.
I just have the disc for that one. I don't have it.
I want all of the like the Battle Network games on a collection. I want a Star Force collection.
I could definitely see them doing a complete Battle Network series collection after this. I feel like it just makes sense.
Misadventures of Tron Bond, $246.
That's not too bad.
$246?
That's not too bad.
You son of a bitch. That's complete though.
Yeah.
Actually, what are like the Star Force games? Or
so there are.
It's sort of like
similar system to Battle Network.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I would compare like X to Classic is like Star Force to Battle Network, where it takes place later, and it's just a slight evolution of that.
Yeah,
because I've been looking into those too.
They're fun.
Yeah,
it is a little different from how the battles work, because in Battle Network it's it's like kind of isometric view and you can see the whole map.
Yeah, it's a 3x3.
In Star Force it's behind you, like behind the shoulder, so you're moving like this, and you're shooting ahead. So like there are fewer ways to move there, but it just changes the perspective a little bit.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Well, all right.
Although there's one other question, like for side games that are similar to Mega Man, like outside of like Azure Gunvolt.
Oh, okay.
Are there any other like similar styles like that you like for the games or?
Yeah, I mean there are other games that are like non Mega Man titles that are basically Mega Man.
Yeah.
I think one I mentioned was Mighty Gunvolt Burst. I liked a lot. That's an 8-bit one where you can play as Beck or you can play as Gunvolt, or they have other playable characters to download. And it basically is a Mega Man game.
Well, yeah, like the Azure Strikers were too, but instead of you had the lightning ability instead of.
Yeah.
Actually, I really enjoyed those. I have that like that 2-pack on the Switch, and actually they just released that Luminous Avenger.
Yeah, Luminous Avenger X just came out. And that one's a lot of fun. That one has Copen as the character from Gunvolt 2.
Yeah, he actually reminds me. It reminds me a lot of Mighty Number 9, where you run into people and you it tags them sort of. It's very weird. I'll have to show you the trailer later.
But
you can dash attack into people.
Yeah, you could dash through people and it would shoot off lasers on them. It's pretty crazy.
Well, I say that's the one thing I really did like about Gunvolt was he had the tag gun, and then he would you'd shot him, and then depending on how many times you hit a target, it would stack how many times your lightning would arc to him.
Yeah,
and then you hit the button and you get that shield, that arc, and all the lightning would just kind of arc to different enemies.
And you got different ways you could tag them, because I think you could get one that curved off or something. It was really goofy.
And I always like Gunvolt as a character design. He looks great. The controls are great. And it's a fun action game.
It felt a lot like the X games.
I think to me it's that kind of felt like they wanted to make more Mega Man Zero.
That's what it was to me. It was like they couldn't do another Mega Man Zero, so they made that instead.
So
because it's almost the same art style.
Yeah, it's very similar.
And I enjoyed those very thoroughly.
So that's I know there are some other games that are basically like Mega Man. There's some Dojin games. There's one I know in the Toho series that was Mega Mario. I played. It was a fun fan game. Plus, there's some there's some official older games. Remember Creon Conquest or whatever for
my god.
NES was basically not as good as Mega Man.
It was a Mega Man engine, and the game was diabolical.
So
there's a little. This is a little known fact. So obviously, when we do Power Trip for the channel, We don't always beat the games in one go, obviously.
Well, we talked about that with there's certain games that what was it, Snake, Rattle, and Roll we've had to come back to.
Battletoads.
Yeah.
Creon Conquest was one we had actually tried, and it did not go well. There were actually quite a few games that we played where just the footage never saw the light of day. Adventure Island we played for a couple hours and realized that was a no-go. Snake, Rattle, and Roll we did the special on. Battletoads we did a special on, but that one we knew we weren't going to beat. Creon Conquest was another one. We played, I think, maybe 40 minutes until we realized we had no continues and Paul couldn't beat level 2. We were like, this is not happening today. So it's like, that's Creon Conquest is no joke. That was a game they purposefully made harder here than in Japan. Japan had a continue feature. Oh. And for some reason they took it out here because they thought we liked hard games. We don't! We're Americans, we're pussies. That's why we had normal and difficult mode, which was just easy and regular.
That's why we had Game Genie.
No kidding. We made ways to cheat. It's the American way, damn it!
No, actually, I just thought of another thing. How well, with the big superhero type boom for cinematic stuff, do you think a property like Mega Man would translate well to either live action or an animated feature or anything like that?
I think an animated movie would work really well.
I feel like that would be the only way it would work.
With animated?
With his design, animated would be. Otherwise, it would have to definitely. I don't think they could put him in the blue jumpsuit.
But they could
in a live action.
But you've seen Alita, right?
Yeah,
do you think they could do you haven't seen it?
I've seen the trailers for it. Yeah.
Okay, but she's CG. They could do Mega Man sort of like that because there are humans.
I guess.
And there are the robots in there as well. So do you would it translate or would it just be one of those properties that would look weird?
I feel like his design would look ridiculous. Placed in a real world setting with the helmet and shit. I think they would have to kind of redesign him to where he, because I mean, you look at Sonic, the Sonic movie, it looks ridiculous. Even with his redesign, it still looks out of place. It just, for some reason, to me, that kind of.
But then again, they could always adapt the Legends story instead, so it would make more aesthetic sense.
I think Legends would make more sense into a live action, but not so much classic or X series. I suppose could, but I think they would have to redesign his character to make it work live action.
Yeah, I think that a live action one could work with certain concessions, but I mean it's definitely possible. I think it would be easier to take as an animated movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that they could do. I think that could work really well, and there could be many ways that they could go about it. They could try a one-off story just for one of the games, or they could try something unique, or try something kind of Into the Spider-Verse, where it's a crossover of multiple properties, which I think would be kind of fun if they had different Mega Men together. That would be pretty
interesting.
That would be pretty fun if they had the different Mega Men all together. That to me would be really cool. But I could see it working well. And if they did the classic one, it would basically just be Astro Boy, which I think has worked out pretty well. So they could do something like that. And if it's the X series, I think that those kind of sci-fi stories do work. I wouldn't see any reason why they can't really do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for live action, I'm just not sure. As I feel like they would. I don't think they would adapt it as a one-to-one thing.
I would equate it kind of to how the Final Fantasy VII movie was. That would never have been able to be properly put in a live action setting. I think that movie had to be CG. Resident Evil, what was the ones that they made with Leon and those? Was it Genesis? Or no? What were the Resident Evil movies they did?
You're talking about Degenerate or Degeneration?
You should say Degenerate. Yeah. Yeah, those were CG. I think those could have actually been live action. I don't think.
Well, I think the big problem with the Resident Evil ones is they went more bombastic than.
Oh, it got ridiculous.
That they went more on the extreme rather than making them feel tension, almost not quite horror in the way like old Romero movies were, but more action. They leaned on that too much with the absurdities.
The Resident Evil movies went definitely like it definitely leaned more towards like Galarians as the series went on. Like one felt survival horror. Like one to me was fantastic. I loved the first Resident Evil movie. 2 was okay, and then you get to the ending of 2 where now she has like psychic powers. You're like, what is happening right now? Yeah. And then 3 it just fell off the rails. Like I don't know what the hell happened, what they were thinking with 3 and 4, but I feel like Final Fantasy 7 I don't think could have. I mean, look at even the Dragon Ball movie. Come on, man. That live-action movie was atrocious.
Well, and I think that's also part of it, too, is you got to get someone who respects the franchise to make it, not someone who's just trying to cash in.
I feel like the character designs in general just don't... A live-action person with Cloud's haircut it just could not work. It just would not make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like there's stylistic choices that they would have to do with Mega Man to make it live action. To make it look not ridiculous. I don't know. That's just me. But, because, like, do you remember when you brought over the Mega Man helmet and the Buster?
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't make a movie like that. It's just crazy.
You could.
It would just cue the tinfoil hats. Like it would just, I don't know. But I could definitely see Mega Man going into more of an animated movie kind of idea.
I think if they did that, I would be for it. Again, like I if they want to do something unique, I thought like kind of an Into the Spider-Verse approach would be really fun.
Yeah,
like that would be something I would like to see.
That would be really cool, actually. I definitely think it's an IP that's underutilized, and I hope, since we're in the age of nostalgia, that they kind of pick it back up and put it in the spotlight where it deserves to be. Because besides Mario, Mega Man's pretty close to a household name. Like, a lot of people know Mega Man. It's one of their longest running series. I mean, I can't really think of too many more that have spanned from the original NES to current systems.
And that's one where I've always loved Capcom. They have these really enduring things. There's Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, Street Fighter, and Mega Man's always been the one to me where it's always been near and dear to my heart, and it's gone there. And I think that he hasn't reached the heights of something like Mario has, but he's always been something that has been well liked by a lot of people.
Absolutely, I would definitely put him in the same echelon as Zelda and Mario to me.
Yeah. That's one. I would definitely love to see him get those kind of numbers and get those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't. I'm okay because it's for me it's a really personal connection, and ultimately I just want people to enjoy it and find the series, and if they can make new ones and people can love it, then that's great. So I just really hope there's more coming out for it.
I feel like he's kind of on that same shelf as like Metroid, where it's like it's such a fantastic series and it's so underutilized that it deserves to be up there. Yeah, because I mean it's such a cute series and there's so many different ways you can take it. If you want a more serious approach, take the X series or the Z or the Zero series. Yeah. If you want more of like a platforming shooter, take the original. There's so many different ways you can do it. If you want more of an RPG experience, do the Battle Network games. Like, there's so many different styles that can be applied to it that it just works. You know what I mean? And it caters to damn near everybody. So I love it. I've always liked Mega Man. I want to get more into like the Battle Network series. Yeah. I have the first one, and I think maybe the second one even. And I want to play those. Obviously, the Zero Collection I'm getting.
Yeah, well, I know I plan on kind of, I don't care what Paul says, forcing you to play through Network Transmission for GameCube soon.
Oh, absolutely. I actually was, once I've kind of gotten sick of Zillia, is plugging that one in, or even the first Battle Network on my GameCube and playing that. But I think that'll do it. What else? Unless you guys can think of another thing to talk about quick?
I mean, I can always talk about Mega Man.
This could take forever. But I think that'll do it for this episode of the Powercast, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Tim, you're always welcome to be on. Anytime we don't need Paul, which
is always.
Tim, you're a better player than Paul could ever be. Do you want to replace Paul as a permanent member of Power Trip?
Though we have to ask, does he have funny rage outbursts? Because that's why we keep Paul around.
I don't know. I hear Tim's pretty funny drunk, even though I've never seen it. Okay. I hear you're quite the cut up as a drunken man.
I don't know. Taking over Paul's spot would be a big responsibility.
You'll have to get used to a lot of banter. But thanks for being on. I always appreciate you. I love you to death. Kevin.
Nah, I'm just here.
I can take care of you. But yes, that's it. Hit us up on Facebook.
Hit us up on Twitter.
Go to powertripgaming.tv. You can watch the main series of the channel where we tackle the NES collection, watch the side quest videos. Tim's playing his way through the X collection.
Listen to more of our Powercasts, because those are always fun.
That's right, on iTunes or Stitcher. If you're watching this on YouTube, I put them there. But you can find the Power Trip Gaming Powercast there, where you can listen to all our other episodes. But that'll do it. So that was the
Pokemon, man!
That was the Pokemon Trip Powercast.
This is the Mega Man Power Hour.
Oh my god, maybe we should do
Mega Man Power 2-hour
just
power.
Offshoot the Powercast into the Pokecast. Motherfucker.
Just for certain people.
Oh god, just for certain people, not the one guy who doesn't know anything about it. But that was the Power Trip Gaming Powercast. Now you're listening with power. Oh fuck.